It is the 14th of November, well past Veterans Day. It is now just about 9 days before Turkey Day, before Thanksgiving. I am excited. Today, big ball of fire in the sky, sunny and warm, 70 degrees. Tomorrow, just a little cooler, 68 degrees. We descend into, again, they've changed it up since yesterday. This is just, at this point, I don't even know why I go beyond that. Just so that you know, folks, because it'll change by tomorrow. Sunday and Monday of the coming days here have clouds with like moisture. On Sunday, it looks like teardrops. I presume that's rain, 55 degrees. Monday, morning flurries, which sucks for people like Billy and I, and Lewis for that matter, and Mark. And that's it. Nobody else comes in early. Morning flurries, 47 degrees. That's a 23 degrees change from today. I would get outside today. Now I feel like I need to do stuff outside. One of the things I have to do, and I didn't tell this story about over the Veterans Day thing. I told you the Fogo de Chao thing. When I came out to the car out there at Park Meadows, right rear tire was flat. Had to change the tire, put on the donut mercifully before the next thing I had to do, which was to go pick up Graham from something. Drove it out to our good friends at Auto Nation off of Arapahoe Road. They fixed it up, lickety split, got me back on the road. Super nice. I said, hey, is this thing going to be as good as gold? They're like, yeah. Because I had a screw embedded right in the middle of the tread. Like,
oh, that's awful.
Either there was a screw standing straight up in the road and I ran over it, or someone came in and pounded a screw into the tire. Either way, these guys are like, no, we patched it. It'll no problem. I just bought the tires a month or so ago. Well, yesterday I'm driving back from somewhere with Graham in the car, and the car feels super sluggish. And I'm like, what in the world is going on? Like, this does not feel right. Like, I'm not getting any good power here. There was a weird noise coming out of the back. And then I'm like, no, come on. We get into the driveway. I get out. Friggin' tire is flat. Now I'm worried, I drove down I-25 with this for a little
long?
clip.
Yeah.
How long have I been killing this tire?
Yeah,
so
because you can bend the axle if you get onto the rim. Yeah.
So I got to take that in. I can't do it after the show. I got a thing I got to do from 10 to 11. But
now, did you do the thing where you take your hands off the wheel?
To see if the car pulls?
Yeah.
I do that all the time anyway.
Well, no, but when the car's sluggish, do that, and it'll tell you if it pulls really hard left or right. Then you've got a flat tire. It didn't
pull really hard, so it makes me think that maybe
surprised.
I was deflating as I go or something. And it's weird too, because when I took the tire off again last night to put the damn donut back on, that's what's out in the parking lot now.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
It's not the kind of flat you think. Like, it's flat, but there's some kind of pressure thing in there where it won't pop back out, where it's like it's sucked into the rim in some way. I don't know how to. That's
weird.
So anyway, super frustrating. The good news is I had an opportunity to show Graham. I'm like, hey, let me show you how to change a tire. And as he's standing there, and we're in the dark, and he's got his little phone on with the flashlight, he's like, Dad, this isn't the first time you've shown me this. I'm like, really? When did I show you a flat tire thing? He goes, remember when we were coming back from snowboarding a couple years ago on the side of I-70 in the snow? And I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. That's where the nice state trooper pulled up behind me, hit his lights. He's like, hey, he recognized me, super nice guy. Oh. And he's like, look, bummer that this happened. I'm doing all the stuff. He doesn't offer to help at all. He's got the lights on to keep people from running me over, which is fine. So I do that. And then I go, oh, you know what? You're right. I did change that tire in a friggin' snowstorm off of I-70.
Yeah.
And then he goes, yeah, that was the week after you went off the side of the road and we had to get towed out. And I was like, we've had some fun snowboarding. We really have had a great time. We were like coming back from Keystone or something, and I slid off the side of the road, and it was, I don't know, man. So as I'm sitting there changing the tire with him, I'm like, okay, so you've seen Dad with the whole car thing. It's you
missed an opportunity there, because the opportunity at that point is like, well, this isn't the first time you've shown me. So you've seen this before, and then you turn.
Yeah, now you do it.
Your turn. All righty then.
He tried on one of the lug nuts. He watched me, and I said, man, listen, when I say crank on it, like it can't just be constant pressure. You got to give it some jolts, you know?
You do.
And he watches me do a couple of them, and he's like, okay, let me give it a shot. It was just like, it made me a little proud. Like, let Hulk get in here and show you how to do this. He's so close to being my height. He's gonna be stronger and bigger. But for right now, it's like, hold on, let me.
I have to loosen up a couple buttons on the shirt so I don't tear the buttons off.
Please get Dad his can of spinach.
Yes,
for his forearms.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. I taught the girls how to change a flat tire, but like you, the first time it was in the snow on the side of the road. They call tires flat, and it's of course like 8:30 at night in a snowstorm. Because of course it is
the worst.
So that was fun. Yeah, so I've done that with the girls before.
But here's the other thing. Yeah. I'm not convinced everybody out there, maybe our listeners could. I'm not convinced everybody out there, especially with the millennial and younger generation, could change a tire.
Not at all. No, not at all.
Like Graham's asking me questions, good ones. I mean, he's 13. He's going to be 14 next month. Where he's like, actually, what am I saying? He's going to be
15.
He's going to be 14 a week from today. Holy smokes. I'm glad he's not listening to the radio right now.
My goodness.
A week from today is going to be 14. But he's like, well, so Dad, where's the spare tire? I'm like, oh, great. Let's come around to the back of the car. I'll show you where this thing is. And I'm like, do you know how the jack goes together? And he's like, no, but I remember there's a thing that hooks into a thing I'm like, yes. There are things that hook into things, right?
Yes.
And there's only a limited number of pieces. So even if you forget how they go together, there's only a limited number of combinations, right? You can't get it too wrong, right?
Process of elimination.
Right. Yeah. You can't get it too wrong.
Yeah.
So that was good. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah. The tough part that I talk to the kids, I'm like, listen, the number one thing when you're doing the jack and you're taking the tire off, the number one thing you're going to mess up is placing the jack at the right place on the frame. That's where you'll mess up.
And I showed him that too.
I go, that's it. That really is, because if you get it too far forward, too far back, not only can it, it'll bend, the cladding on the side of the car, but the worst part is it's not balanced. That's put there because it balances the car when it goes up in the air. You put it somewhere else, no balancy. It could fall over.
I told him too. I said, look under here. I said, there are areas here that are cosmetic. There are areas here that aren't supposed to be load bearing. This thing right here along this piece, this is the thing that'll take all the pressure. And he's like, oh, okay. I mean, I don't know if he ever remembers it, but someday, man, dude may end up with a flat tire in a place where AAA isn't right there, or you can't. I just like the idea that, and I think these kids would, they'd be like, all right, I'm gonna give it a shot. You know what I mean?
Might as well.
Let's see if this thing can work. So I appreciate that.
Ever had a blowout, like, full speed blowout doing, 60 or 65 on the highway, and the car and the tire just goes boom, and it's done? Ever had that? Really?
No.
Wow.
I have had.
Yeah.
Oh, have you had the blowout? Well, tell the blowout
just
story.
just outside of Colorado Springs.
How fast were you going?
Probably 70 at the time.
And what happened to the car?
This was the funny part, is my wife afterwards, and she gets out of the car. She's a little white because of, it was a loud bang. And she stopped and she said, you handled that really well. I'm like, I don't like the surprise in your voice or the shock.
Yeah.
I'm taking this a little personally here. And so, like, you were concerned that somehow, and no, basically it's just a matter of understanding the speed and slowly, letting don't do the brake, let your foot off the accelerator and lean into that a little bit. So it doesn't, so you lean into where the car's leaning because of the tire that's gone, and you kind of drive into that a little bit, let it slowly accelerate, and then just pull off onto the side of the road. You just got to not panic. Because anytime that you do anything,
exactly right.
Yeah,
man.
And so that's the idea. It's just you do the Douglas Adams, you don't panic. And so as long as you let the car slowly come down and you don't try to turn too hard or don't hit the brakes, you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
But she was like, I'm surprised how well you did. I'm like, I'm not really getting the vibe here from my loving wife.
Once again, and we'll get to this, Billy, but just so listeners are already asking things through the text, like, what is Billy's go-to tire? We need Mark Crowley for this too. Mark has a set of go-to tires for
and make
these
sure,
all-weather somethings.
It is all weathers. Yeah, that is the go-to. You don't do the all seasonal, you do the all weather. Mark Crowley is the one that is right about that. He is the guy that number of years ago turned me on to that one. I will not take credit for this. That is a Mark Crowley.
Mark knows baking and tires. There's just no doubt about that.
Because of
only those two things, by the way.
And it's because of the composition of the rubber and the all-weather tires and the grip inside of them. The all-weather provide the closest you'll get to a snow tire without having a snow tire. They're much better, and the tread is much deeper than you have on the all-season. So do the all-weather. A little more pricey, but they also wear a lot better. You'll replace all seasons before you replace all weathers. So the number of the dollars that you put into the all-weathers will pay off in the end. Absolutely.
I just don't want to buy any new tires today. I just bought these. As you know, tires not close to free at all.
I was going to curse. Just
Yes,
yesterday.
you were.
Yes, I
Yeah.
was. I was just going to, seriously, because this is just you and I just shooting stuff. I just had a coupon yesterday expire for like $150 off Goodyear tires.
But I just bought them. I just bought 4 new friggin' tires like
that's right.
5 weeks ago.
I remember that. We were talking about this. Yes. This is one of the new ones. Oh,
that's how we got on the Mark Crowley thing.
So
and now I've got one that's, gone down twice now. And I'm like, now, please don't tell me I've got to replace. I don't think I've driven on them long enough, but please don't tell me I have to replace 2 tires. Don't do it.
Go back to the place. There may be a road hazard that you get automatically for the first like 6-7 months. You
Hope so.
Hope so.
Go see, this is the one I talked about on the radio where I asked the guy, I'm like, tell me about the warranty. And he's like, well,
let me read it.
See, it's 30,000 or whatever. And I'm like, is that prorated?
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't know. I'm like, well, you're selling the product, man. I mean, come on. This is the question again. They're insistent. What's your go-to brand of tire?
Oh, that depends. It depends on.
I can't believe we're talking.
Yeah, no, it depends. My favorite, honestly, Continental. That's the one if I have
Continental.
Yeah, Continental.
Never heard of them.
Like, really?
Never heard of them.
Seriously, that is my go-to. I like their tread design. I like the tires. They wear
and
very
Billy
well.
knows cars too.
Yeah.
So
they have, and oh gosh, I wish I would have studied this. They have an all-weather that is top-notch. That is ridiculously good. In fact, those are the tires that we put on my mom's car. I don't want to make
this weird, but Billy got a little aroused just saying it.
Yeah,
like,
I did.
All weather.
Yeah,
it's
and they're the tires we put on my mom's car to make sure that she's safe during the winter, and they are phenomenal.
Really?
They are ridiculously good tires. Those are the ones. If you want, if I would say a brand, if I do it, do Continental.
People would feel like we have missed the entire point of this part of the show if we didn't mention Monday Night Football.
That is true. Yes. Did you watch? Were you there?
I did.
I know you're doing stuff in the driveway.
Doing some stuff in the driveway. Yeah. So I put it on my phone and turned on, because it's a hybrid, turned on the car so that I could get the speaker. I'm sure the neighbors love this. Dropped the windows and had it on the little screen. I'm listening to, I could have done 850, done the Broncos thing, but I want to see it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I'm there to watch that incredible touchdown with Sutton in the edge of the end zone.
Oh, that was nice.
And also to watch the pinged off of the uprights extra point. As soon as it happens, I go, Graham, we are going to lose this game by a point. And he looks at me and goes, Dad, that's negative thinking.
Yeah.
He said, you just put that out there. He goes, and you're trying to predict the future. I'm like, is someone at school talking to you about therapy or something?
Yeah,
what is this thing? And he's laughing. And then towards the end of the game, as you recall, it's 22-21.
Yes.
And he looks over at me and he goes, you remember what you said? I go, oh, I remember exactly what I said, man. I'm like, this is us. Yep. Welcome to us.
Yeah.
Little did I know that as much as we wanted to lose that game by a point, Buffalo wanted to lose it more by 2. I mean, how do you put 12 dudes on the field on an end of the game?
That was crazy. And the funny thing is, and of course, when we pinged one off the upright, I yelled quite loudly in the living room of the house, it's a freaking straight line.
Soccer guy goes nuts. Yeah.
Yes, I went nuts. I'm like, oh my God. And my son just sits there and giggles at me.
There's a chance. I mean, when he first missed, I said, got to cut him. Like you can't come back from that. There's just no way to come back from that. Then no one is more relieved on the planet Earth that they had 12 men on the field than Lutz, because otherwise he's the GOAT for sure.
And it's interesting because you figure out the last couple of years, our special teams have not been top notch. They haven't been really well organized. They haven't been great. This was one where I looked at it and went, okay, special teams coach, you deserve at least a portion of the game ball, because not once, but twice they organized to get that field goal unit on and set immediately without a timeout. That was
interesting. Yeah,
that is skill. That is something that is practiced. I mean, that is something that you line up and go, okay, switch. How quickly can you guys?
Apparently, Buffalo doesn't practice the mirror image of that.
Yes, and that's the funny part is we did it in the first half, and the special team coach on Buffalo didn't course correct. He wasn't ready for later in the game for that to happen again. He should have. He should have, as soon as we were coming down to the end, he should have known the 11 people he needed on the field. And there's no way. It's inexcusable for him to have 12 on the field there.
Meanwhile, there were aspects of that game Like, how many breaks could we get that we would follow up with a 3 and out? Turnovers, punt returns. I mean, Mims was amazing. We're getting this great. At one point, I heard, I think Joe Buck say average field position for the Broncos was their own 42. And I'm like, oh my. And we couldn't do a thing. There were aspects of the game that were like, and I've said this before, like two drunks fighting in an alley, just, hitting each other and knocking each other, get back up. Nobody can land a solid blow. One of them wets himself, and takes a breather.
For 6 minutes. Yeah.
It was just an ugly, ugly game in different aspects.
It was.
But we won. Now imagine being on the losing side of that thing.
Oh, it feels awful. And imagine, this is the other part, is imagine being Buffalo on the losing side of that for a couple of reasons. We are a franchise that is down. We are a franchise that has been the Keystone Cops for the last 5 to 6 seasons.
Yeah.
And we're a franchise that has the old quarterback that is washed up. Russ looked great last night. Not fantastic, not old.
He did
Russ.
Some great stuff.
Yeah,
he did some great stuff.
I still, though, and I'll complete the thought in a sec. I still am brought back to the old, and I don't know what the exact quote is, but it comes from Bill Walsh, and he talks about the idea of putting together a team. He said, "It is remarkable how if you fix the defensive line and the offensive line, how so many other problems with the team simply disappear." He said, "That's the key." He goes, "You fix the O-line and the D." Bill Walsh. He goes, "You fix the O-line and the D-line. It's amazing how many other problems you have with the team just simply disappear." And that's what I saw last night, is Russell, rather than looking to complete that 3-step drop and then deliver the ball, he was at 1, 2, now I got to duck. So he couldn't make those reads. There were times he's missing open receivers because he didn't have the time. Our offensive line is a sieve. It is ridiculous. Some of those people.
There were times that he had hours in the back there. I mean, just ridiculous. And then other times where I think they must have rushed 9 or something. Yes. You know what I mean? Like where I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah. Or the defensive lineman is like, "I'll give you $5,000 if you just let me go." Like, done. Done. That's fine. Yeah. And so those were the parts. And what I felt bad for Buffalo is they're on the other end of this. They're a franchise that is ascending. They're a franchise that was in the Super Bowl conversation at the beginning of the season.
Oh, yeah.
They're a franchise that allegedly had found their franchise quarterback, in Josh Allen.
Back-to-back division titles.
Yes. So, and all of a sudden, Josh Allen now has fallen apart. And this is crazy.
Some of the passes, too, just didn't seem like others.
It didn't make any sense.
Look, one of the picks, you can't blame Josh Allen. He threw a laser, and it just bounced off a dude, and we got it. I mean, you can't blame that on Josh Allen.
Not his fault, but there was one where he went overthrow.
Oh, that throw was ridiculous.
Yeah, and you're like, that's you. That is on the delivery.
Or how about the implosion at the end when, and for folks that didn't watch the game, you're probably like, this isn't political. No, it's not, but this is what we did.
But this is Denver.
But when we called that 4th and whatever play, and Russell backs up and throws that lawn dart to Jerry Jeudy. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Where if he'd gone a little bit further.
Jerry Jeudy runs into the end zone.
Yeah. Yep.
But he throws that lawn dart, and whoever it is on Buffalo is just like, I gotta stop him, and just crushed him, and then has the gall to stand up and throw his arms like that wasn't interference. I'm like, buddy, that's textbook interference. You never once turned around.
No.
You had no idea where the ball was, but you were going to tackle this dude, whether it got there or not, and you did.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, you had your back to the ball. You weren't looking for the ball, and you run into the receiver. That's pretty much pass interference.
Those things followed by the 12.
Now here's the thing. Now we've talked about this before, because again, it's a bone of contention. The idea that we pay people hundreds of thousands of dollars in the NFL to not be able to kick a ball in a straight line. Again, really annoys me. Now we've talked about this. You saw our kicker, who for some reason has decided to only have 1 L in his name, and I'm holding that personally against him. I already don't like it. Just saying that from a guy that has 2 L's. Just
Wait a minute. He only has 1 L for Bill?
For Will. For Will, he only has 1 L.
Will?
Yeah, it's Will.
Huh.
And he has 1 L. Which I just think there's something wrong there. But again, seriously, side of the field. It is. Side of the field, he's practicing. He's warming up, and we watched him. And we've talked about this before. But he's warming up for that final field goal kick.
Yeah.
The one that can win it. The one that he missed the first time. Because we got 2 shots at it. So he missed it the first time. And we've talked about this, that I don't understand why the NFL is oblivious to these problems. And the issue is when you have the field goal kicker over on the side of the field, and he's got that little spidery thing.
Sure.
And he's kicking into the little lacrosse net.
Yeah,
he's got the lacrosse net that sits there. So when he's doing that, he's not working on his technique. He's only warming up his hips. He's only warming up his leg.
Got to warm up the hips.
But there's no technique. He doesn't have any feedback on his plant foot, on his direction, on his follow through. He has zero feedback for a kick that is going to be very important. And again,
who should be giving him the feedback?
No,
Soccer guy?
This is what they should be doing and this is why I can't believe nobody's done this so far. They need to go and adapt that. You see them in like Top Golf and other golfing places where they have that big white screen, and then you hit the ball,
shows you.
Yeah. Why an NFL team doesn't have that is beyond me, because this field goal kicker should be perfecting his technique. The reason that Will stepped on the field and missed it the first time is because his technique was crap. He was going to push that thing to the far right all the time because when he was warming up, that's what he was doing. He went out there and did exactly what he did in the warm-up. When he was given a second shot at it. So he was
consistent is what you're saying.
Yes, but the issue is you're allowing them to be consistently bad. And this is a ridiculous thing with the NFL. Watch what happened when he got a second chance at it, right down the middle. Wow. And this comes, and the reason I know this is because in soccer, one of the most difficult things is that free kick. You set that ball up and say, okay, now you're this many yards from the goal. The wall is in front of you. You've got to put this ball in this area. Can you do it without practicing? Every single soccer player, you give them 2 shots at it, they'll hit the goal. They'll put the ball where they want. That first time, it's iffy. It's got to be based on how well. It's just like a golf swing. That golf swing can change based on little things in your approach, where you're contacting the ball, your follow-through. Is your follow-through coming across your body or away from your body? Same thing with your leg.
That's Billy, if anyone from the Broncos is listening, you may have just found yourself a position not in the booth here.
Well, for $3,000, they could fix this. And that's the thing I don't understand.
Undersell it. $3,000 and your $500,000 a year salary.
I'm just saying, I don't understand why they don't fix this. It was stupid. And so he's over there by the side kicking, and I'm like, he's not practicing technique.
To your point about the soccer thing, I may have told this story before, but if you go back and look about 30 years ago, a little less than that, a guy named Brad Deluiso, soccer player at UCLA, huge leg. And somebody from the football team, I don't know if it was a coach or a player, sees him and talks him into trying to walk onto the team and kick. And he does. And he ends up being this incredible kicker for UCLA. He gets done with college. He's now thinking, what am I going to be when I grow up? And somebody calls him and says, you've been drafted.
That is hilarious.
He's like, by the NFL? And they're like, yes, by the NFL. And he ends up bouncing. This guy's got AFC championship ring. I think from Buffalo or something. I can't remember who. And then he ends up on the Broncos.
Yeah.
And all this dude did was this is back when there was a trend where teams were carrying 2 kickers. Your super accurate field goal kicker and dudes that could kick the thing 80 plus yards. And that was Brad. And so for a time, in fact, my one brush with Brad was his good buddy from UCLA was my law school roommate, who I just saw at the Buffs game a couple weeks ago. And he came into town and he's like, hey, I've got this gig up the road. And I can't remember if it was Breckenridge or Vale or some place that has a Hooters, because he was going to be the celebrity judge I'm not joking, for a wet t-shirt contest at Hooters. And so Mike,
I don't know whether to be embarrassed or ashamed.
Mike, my roommate, is like, do you want to go? And I'm like, what? I mean,
you had me a t-shirt.
Yes. So we all piled into Brad's car. We drove up the mountain, and it was one of the most ridiculous things ever. So here he is at the table doing the judging, and all of these. I mean, this is 30 years ago, folks. Okay, I just go with it here. I'm a man in his early 20s with all the things that go on with a man in his early 20s.
And it's the early 90s.
And it's the early 90s.
Yes.
And so Brad's at the table, and all of these women are performing in essence for Brad.
Of course.
And there's Mike and I on either side over his shoulder, just like, this is so awesome. Like, this is just like being a Bronco.
Yeah, exactly.
This is just,
it's just like those movies we see that are PG-13.
I just feel like, this dude lived the dream, man.
Yeah.
Like, guy's just going to play soccer. UCLA pays for his college so he can go be a D1 soccer player. And then lo and behold, dude's making it at a minimum, the league minimum, to go around and kick the ball.
Yeah.
And not even for points. Like, no pressure on him. No. All you got to do is kick off. He's like, okay.
Yeah, that is ridiculous.
That's the best job in the NFL.
Yeah, and I've told the story before that is one of my major regrets. Again, I'm not sure if I had the chance if I would go back and do it.
That and the tramp stamp.
Yeah,
but go on.
That is, because it's who would have thought that phrase? I'm just sorry. That could have gone really badly. That senior year in high school, the head football coach wanted to know if I would kick for them field goals and kickoffs and stuff because they were searching for someone. And so I said I would be happy to, but let me show up here just for half an hour and I'll just kick and I'll do anything that you can. And he said, no, you got to be here for the whole practice. I'm like, but I'm not doing anything. Other than
and just the kicking guy.
I'm like, just let me go play soccer and I'll show up here after soccer practice and we'll kick for half an hour, whatever you want me to. I'll do whatever you want. No, you got to be here for practice.
Which coach was this?
This was Pete Levine out at Mullen.
Oh, I remember Pete Levine. That's when I was there too.
Yeah, and he said no. He said you got to be here with the team, and I said, well, then I'm not kicking. And the problem was that I could kick field goals 30 yards further than the guy they had on the team right now.
Oh my goodness!
And okay, now you want to hear the punch in the gooch?
Here we go. That guy goes and plays D1 football.
Yes.
No,
on a scholarship to CU.
What's his name?
Archibald is the last name. Jim Archibald.
Are you kidding me?
No. And so he goes.
There you go, Mr. Pride.
Yeah, so he goes and plays in D1, and I sit there and go, I could have, but again, I would not have given up the playing of the soccer in order to do it. Again, hindsight being 2020.
Soccer,
yeah, hindsight being 2020, I would not have given it up. But I went up there, and the odd thing is I ended up working security during the first 2 seasons that Archibald's up there at CU. And so I get to wave to him and things like that. And I'm watching him sometimes kick on the field going,
that could have been me.
I could nail that.
Yeah, your passion isn't having someone else pay for your college education with the potential of an NFL position.
Then again,
your passion soccer.
Yeah, then again, in retrospect, it explains a lot about the dumb decisions I've made. It sort of is a nice encapsulation of things that have happened in my life.
We got a text from James. Tuesday used to be grievance soapbox. Today, what's your favorite tire? Sports talk. How to warm your hips. Only 28 minutes in, 3.5 hours left.
Yes, exactly.
James, you have figured us out big time. That is wonderful. Listen, we're going to cut away for a break here. I can't believe we're getting calls already, but we are. Let me do this read. I normally just tell you about Gay Ribble. I'm not going to do that. I want to do this read because this is new. This is something new they put in here, and I want to make sure that I get it right for you. Can you imagine selling your house without having to list it? That's what Gay does these days. Sell with Certainty is a program that Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team have. And this thing is kind of crazy. Selling your home without having to list it. You don't leave any money on the table. You get paid twice through this Sell with Certainty program. She guarantees that you sell your home at 100% of your asking price, or she'll pay the difference in cash. Who makes that kind of guarantee? That's the way to do this. Call them today, 833-301-SOLD. Just that number, 833-301-SOLD. That's 833-301-SOLD, or go to Sell with Certainty Colorado, sellwithcertaintycolorado.com. As always, of course, you can always go to gayhasthebuyers.com because, of course, she does. Gay is G-A-Y-E. Hey, listen, when we come back, it's going to be the good stuff. It's going to be the Thorpe Report. I've identified some things in the Post and the Gazette, one, that are so depressing, I know they're going to make it into the Thorpe Report. Stick around and find out. Maybe you've got some ideas too. And then after that, a little You Choose the News. It's George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Going to turn over to the big man for all the uplifting news of the day. Stay away from the front page of the Post and the Gazette.
Yes.
Billy, it's the Thorpe Report.
Yes, we are all handsome, taller, and we have more hair. That's it.
Great,
All the good
that's
news.
it.
Yes.
And the Broncos won.
Yes. Tuesday today, 70 degrees is going to be our high. Then we're slowly sliding into something that is a little cooler. Until Sunday and Monday, we're going to have showers and possibly flurries, as George outlined, 47 by Monday. So basically 70 today, 68, 65, 63, 62. We're stair-stepping down next couple of days. Denver police say they are investigating a person that was shot in the City Park West neighborhood yesterday afternoon. Happened right around 3 p.m., 16th Avenue and Race Street. Victim taken to the hospital. Police are unable to provide an update on their condition or a suspect at this time. Police are also investigating a suspected hit-and-run crash after a 68-year-old man was found dead along Brighton Boulevard. It was about 10 p.m. Sunday night. Commerce City Police Department posted on their Facebook page at the 7500 block of Brighton Boulevard. They're doing a death investigation. Person had called 911 after seeing a person lying on the road. Deceased person identified as 68-year-old Commerce City man. Believe he was the victim of a suspected hit and run, and that's all the information they have at this time. Denver City Council unanimously passed a $1.74 billion budget with a B for 2024 Monday afternoon, following weeks of negotiations with the new mayor, friend of the show, Mike Johnston. After he released his budget proposal in September, final version passed by the council includes substantially more money for rental and utility assistance. That's a little bit of a surprise. Pitkin County officials are threatening a threatening social media post targeting a local school stemmed from a student that is outside of Colorado and not in immediate danger. Sunday evening, school resource officers with Pitkin County Sheriff's Office learned about a post about Aspen School District social media group that referenced a shooting within one of the schools. Sheriff's Office said it ID'd the person and they were outside of the state, so not really worried about that at that point. Prosecutors are finally set to lay out their case against the mentally ill man accused of shooting and killing 10 people at a Colorado supermarket.
Yeah.
Yep.
What's going on with that?
Judge is going to hold the hearing today. It'll be this morning to decide if there's enough evidence for him to go to trial.
Oh, just the prelim.
Yeah, it's just prelim.
Finally.
Yeah.
Because remember, he'd been incompetent up until now.
Yeah. Which, I always find it interesting that when we find them incompetent, then when we do find them competent, that the choice many times isn't, well, now we can charge them. I'm shocked how often that is not the choice. Many times it's just, goodbye, out the door, good luck, see you later, bye-bye, have fun storming the castle.
Glad you're okay.
Yeah, I don't understand that. Once we reach competency, why can't we then? I don't know.
I just want to emphasize the fact that now that we do not have a death penalty on the books, the only place this case can end is dragging those victims in front of 12 members of the community. There will never be a moment where the public defender shows up and says, hey, if you don't pursue life without the possibility of parole, we'll plead guilty to life without the possibility of parole. There's no effort for that. I mean, the only thing they could ever do is say, give us a term of years. And we know in our broken sentencing system here in Colorado that any term of years likely means dude gets out before he dies. And that can't ever be the right answer here.
Yeah. And that's an excellent point. And that I think that is a really good, in my mind, a really good gut check for people that are not pro death penalty. That many times the use of the death penalty isn't about putting that criminal to death. It's about using it as leverage to get something else that you need in return.
And I would never pursue death just to get that outcome.
Yeah.
But now it's not even a conversation.
Yeah.
It's not like, I don't want to charge it unless I'm going to do it. Same thing with habitual criminal. If I bring habitual criminal charges, it means I want to lock you up for every possible millisecond I can. If there are prosecutors out there using it as leverage, they're misusing it. But you can't even have the damn conversation. Even have the conversation.
I still think that maybe you can use it as leverage, but again, I might be in a different. I might be in a different place ethically than you are.
Yeah, well,
might be the reason that I'm not elected as a DA. That could be the reason.
Let's talk about kicking.
Yes, let's talk about kicking. Alrighty, yes, the body of a 71-year-old hiker from Pagosa Springs. I'm glad we cleared up who's ethical in this conversation.
Not regarding soccer.
No, but
just in other stuff.
I love that. So a 71-year-old hiker from Pagosa Springs. This is sad. Went missing with his dog in August. His body has been found. Rich Moorer was reported missing along with his dog Finney on the evening of August 19th. Extensive search of Blackhead Peak went underway. Multiple agencies were involved. They searched for more than 2,000 hours. They couldn't find him. But October 30th, approximately 3 p.m, Sheriff's Office received information from a local hunter that they found the deceased man. Now, here's the sad part. The dog's still alive and hung out with him.
Oh,
that is really sad.
Buddy, that's very John Wick.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Oh, it is. That is the thing. Is the dog is there with him.
tragic.
Yeah.
Good
so
Lord,
I
that's
know.
tragic.
That's really sad.
Oh, buddy.
Yep. Advocates of the no-kill movement in animal shelters plan to propose a new bill this next legislative session, requiring shelters to post a notice they're about to euthanize a healthy and treatable animal in their care, and then other shelters that are no-kill would be given the opportunity to rescue that animal. I don't know. It just. I understand in my heart, their hearts are in the right way. It just seems onerous that every kill shelter has to put out this and then wait. It just seems like it's an extra process. And I'm not in favor of killing all the animals that are adopted. I'm just saying that, I don't know. I'm on the fence on this one. I mean, my heart tells me one thing, but the logic of it tells me something else, that the execution of this is going to be more onerous.
No pun intended.
Yeah, exactly. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
We in Colorado know how well destructive power winds can be, but a new study shows that our weather is changing. And according to NCAR, new straight line winds that are caused by thunderstorms can be as powerful or more powerful than tornadoes that we have in our area. Yeah. They're saying these winds are tearing roofs off of houses, uprooting massive trees, and cause about $2.5 billion of damage every year in the United States. And new study says that we have extreme thunderstorms here, and we're probably going to see those winds intensify in the near future and could cause more damage than tornadoes. Yep. And finally,
broken winds are the worst.
Yeah, they are. That's what the bathroom we have in the morning. The Broncos team that gave up 70 points earlier in the year managed to win by a single point last night. That is it. That's all I got, sir. Yeah,
Billy T brings the good stuff. That whole Denver Post article that begins with 5 people injured in 3 shootings across Denver and Aurora on Monday. Come on, man. I mean, what is going on out there? Where are we? There's a lot of stuff going on. We're going to talk about it. We're going to get caught up, though, on the really good stuff, of course, and that is You Choose the News after this break, but not before I tell you about our good friends at UltraCur. This is a place. Let me start here. Go to the website right now, ultranow.com. This is a curcumin-based product, all natural, that Billy and I were set. They told us before they would advertise, they're like, listen, we don't want to just advertise. We know we could do that. We want you to be sold on how this thing works. So they provided us some samples, the same kind that you can get by simply going to your natural grocers and asking your vitamin manager to get you a 3-day free supply. They said, try this out. Tell us what you think. It just happened to be during that period of time that I was preparing for that marathon and if you've listened to the show, you know what happened to that. And, I got to tell you, it didn't make the pain like non-existent, but did it reduce the amount of time that I felt the pain and inflammation and stuff, especially in my Achilles, which if you've ever heard the story before, I blew out my Achilles 2 decades ago at Mile High Stadium on the field. That's right, folks. I played for, it was a flag football team fundraiser. Nonetheless, it took away a lot of the inflammation around that and my knees. It just made me feel better more quickly. And so I'm suggesting to you, go to your natural grocers, ask the vitamin manager, because it's not sitting out for, you're going to have to interact, folks. Get your 3-day free supply. You can get another one for a friend or a spouse or someone that you actually care about. And this thing has the potential to solve a lot of problems for you in the pain department pretty quickly. 50% of the people that take it experience relief within 48 hours. And of that group, 50% within 2. Why don't you go join that thing? Check out getultranow.com, getultranow.com. But just go to the natural grocers, give it a shot. Hey, listen, when we come back, it's going to be all the good stuff in You Choose the News. It's George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. I'm not sure we've ever.
I turned you off the last commercial break.
Billy, you turn me off all the time,
Yes,
and for good
that is
reason.
true.
I was just saying,
That's true.
loving me this song. Hey,
It's a
listen,
great song.
let's get right to it. It's You Choose the News with the BTs.
Yes, somebody told me it is time to play You Choose the News, everybody's favorite fake radio news game show, where we have scoured the interwebs for what seems like hours, but probably only 2 or 3 minutes this morning to find really dumb stories about us humans, to put these fake headlines on them to play this dumb fake radio news game. Why? Well, they pay us too. We are so confused about it, but they keep doing it.
Keep doing it.
Exactly. Alrighty, sir. Here are your headlines this morning. Headline number 1, go ahead, we dare you. Headline number 2, Shakespearean actor accidentally joins reality TV show. Headline number 3, we're ignoring the real risk. And headline number 4, unadvertised surprise. Your headlines once again are go ahead, we dare you. Shakespearean actor accidentally joins reality TV show. We're ignoring the real risk and unadvertised surprise.
Shakespeare.
Yes, Shakespeare. You may know actor Brian Cox. He is a classically trained Shakespearean actor, famous for his role in Succession. Recently, he got an offer that was going to fulfill a lifelong dream. He was going to join the new cast of the brand new 007 James Bond movie.
Dun, dun, dun.
It had been a dream for him his entire life. He was excited that he was finally going to be part of 007 Road to a Million. And then he found out that it's a reality TV show. Yes.
On Amazon Prime.
Yes, it is. And he didn't know he is the host of the show at the time. It's basically a bunch of people that are competing in 007 themed challenges. But he said when he signed up, he thought he was fulfilling a life dream, only to find out that instead he's just the voice. He said,
nice agent.
Yeah. He's like,
You're going to love this, man.
Yes.
You're part of the franchise.
Yep, you are. And he said it's a good thing he didn't send out Christmas cards and stuff saying that. So, alrighty, your next choice, sir. Go ahead, we dare you. We're ignoring the real risk or unadvertised surprise.
Unadvertised surprise.
Yeah, Lansing, Michigan is where we're going to journey for this one. 15,000 cans of Armada apple cider is going to be recalled. Well, it's not just apple cider. It is cannabis-infused apple cider. But it's going to be recalled because of a dangerous unadvertised surprise. Evidently, Armada negated to add one very important ingredient into the can during the process. So now the cans are exploding.
What?
I know. Who knew that there was something you had to add to the can so it don't go boom?
It really depends on what I've had for lunch for a can to explode.
Exactly. Now, basically, it's just a stabilizing ingredient that they didn't add to these cans. So they're recalling about 15,000 of these marijuana-infused cider drinks because they have been exploding. And I just want to keep thinking, because again, imagine someone sitting there drinking it, exactly, and getting a little high, sitting there, and all of a sudden, boom. It's like, did you hear that? Could imagine that?
Yeah.
What's going on? Imagine the paranoia involved there. Exactly. Alrighty. Final choice, sir. Go ahead, we dare you, or we're ignoring the real risk.
Dare you.
Yes, go ahead. We dare you. That is the threat coming from some European leaders after Mark Zuckerberg seems to get a little too big for his britches. Recently, the Meta leader has been warning some of the EU, especially Germany and France, that, hey, if you want to put more rules on us Facebook people, we will just pick up shop and we will stop allowing Facebook in your country. And the leader of both Germany and France said, okay. What's the downside?
Well,
they're like, we're grown-ass adults, right? And we know a time in which this didn't exist, and sometimes our life was better. So the idea that we don't have to stare at our screens all the time and have little updates about who got a birthday cake and who's trying a really good thing down at the local bar, we don't care, Mark. That's not the threat you think it is. So literally, they stood up and they were like, yeah, we dare you to go ahead and pull the services. We don't think you got it in you, Mark. Your turn. Yeah. All righty, so that is it. That's the end.
Listen, that was fantastic. We're going to cut away for a break just at the top of the hour. When we come back, our guy on the ground at a big-time special important event. His name is Joshus Sharf. If the technology works, it'll be great. If not, more Broncos. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. replaced by Charlie Kirk. And then we go with the big fellers, Dennis Prager from 11 to 1. 1 to 3 is Seb Gorka, live and local right back here with Jimmy S. Jimmy Sengenberger, all E's in that last name from 3 to 4. And then Officer Brandon Tatum. I think he was a police officer for a cup of coffee out there in Arizona, but the guy's got a big time radio show right now, and he broadcasts from Arizona. But you hear it right here in Denver, Colorado from 4 to 7 p.m. Going to the phone lines for a VIP. We've had him on a billion times because he's an expert in fill in the blank. But today's a little bit different. He is going to be on the ground participating, not just analyzing and pontificating, but this dude's going to be part of it. Josh Sharf from the Independence Institute. Sir, how are you?
Good morning, George. It is I'm in D.C., as you mentioned, for the big pro-Israel march/rally that's happening down on the mall.
Now, before we get in,
right now I'm in National Airport, so just to sort of set the scene for you here. But then I'll be heading as soon as we're done here. I'll be heading down there to pick up my little wristband and join a bunch of other people from Denver, and also my sister who's coming in from Rochester, New York. It's huge. This is
big deal. You're at DCA right now, DCA Airport.
Yeah.
So listen, a lot of Americans would call that Reagan. But at Nationals, fine.
But see, I also call the Beltway Bridge that goes over the Potomac, I still call it the Cabin John Bridge, even though it's been the American Legion Bridge for like 40 years at this point. All right.
That probably predates you. Now, listen, but before we get into this, I want to make sure in the past, there are some things you said where you're like, I want to be clear. I'm not representing II on this or whatever. Do we have to do any of that disclaimer stuff before you tell us what you're up to?
Yeah. Well, you just did. So that's good. This is just me out here on my own. Yeah.
On behalf of John Kildare. No, I'm kidding. I made that up. Tell us what you're doing, what motivated you to do it, and what you're seeing right now when you're out there.
Well, this is a big rally that is being put together, like I say, on the mall, the Jewish Federations of North America, and then an organization, sort of another umbrella organization called the Presidents of the Major American Jewish Organizations of North America. They got together so they can mobilize people in a way that no other institution can mobilize people. These are longstanding umbrella organizations for the Jewish community, and this is somewhat in response to the pro-Hamas rally that you may have seen some video of that took place a couple of weeks ago. I think it was on the 4th of November, and so. This was some sense that, maybe things are starting to slip away a little bit in terms of not necessarily public opinion, but administration solidity in this. And so they put this together. And we are, when I flew in, I took the red eye last night. And so I had to make a connection in New York. There were not a whole lot of people on the red eye from Denver to New York for this. But the plane from New York to just a little shuttle from New York down to DC was completely full, and probably 2/3 of it were people here coming here for the rally.
Now listen,
they've chartered. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say for people that don't know, Josh, of course, a Methodist, so it's very interesting that you would find yourself out there. I'm kidding. I am fascinated by where this goes because of the rally you talked about before, which was the pro-Palestinian, and I'm going to say /Hamas, because I'm still waiting for the pro-Palestinian people to decry Hamas. I'm still waiting for them to come out. And this is going to sound crazy, Josh. It's almost like a Black Lives Matter moment. You know how the people were like, Black Lives Matter, and then politicians would go out on the left and say, all lives matter, and they'd get shouted down. This is almost that moment for me. Like, you can't say in the same breath, well, we decry all the bad stuff in Hamas and Israel have done. It's like, hey, hang on. You've just now conflated two different groups who have completely different agendas and methods of achieving those agendas. This is insane. So I'm glad there is a response to what's going on college campuses and out there in the past. How big do you expect this to be?
Well, initially the numbers they were saying, maybe 40, 50, possibly 60,000 people, which sounds a lot, it sounds like a lot, but honestly it's not. In DC, that's not a big rally. I will tell you that they've said now that there are about 1,500 buses that have been chartered.
Wow.
If we sort of do the math, math and say, well, a big bus can carry, let's say, 60 people, a smaller bus carries 40. Let's err on the small side and say we average about 50 of that. So that's about 75,000 people right there.
Wow.
A friend of mine was still thinking of coming. She lives in New York, and it was just going to get back to the bus that she was going to take was going to get back too late. I said, well, how about a train? She said, I tried the trains. They are all completely booked. You cannot get a ticket from New York down to DC. You cannot get a train ticket. Like I said, the flight that I was on was fun. Obviously, there are going to be fewer people traveling by air than any other way. But when I was waiting in JFK, I was sort of sitting, hanging out, talking to each other. Yeah. And there was a group of kids who came in from San Diego who flew into New York on their red eye, and they were taking the shuttle down that I was on. So this has drawn people in from all over the country. I don't know that they'll reach this number, but I wouldn't be surprised if they got 250,000.
Unbelievable. That's huge. What's the goal? Other than the demonstration of support from all these different places across the country, do you have meetings set up afterwards? Are you guys going to go, I don't know, storm the Hamas, storm the Capitol? What are you doing? Going to, I don't know, steal an election? What are you guys doing out there?
Well, there may be. I mean, I'm not doing any of that. There may be other meetings set up. I'm not part of that. I'm just, one of the masses who's going to be milling around. But I'm sure that there's going to be some lobbying afterwards. And part of the goal here is to keep, hopefully build up and preserve support in Congress to show the administration that there is still a tremendous amount of support that they need to, I seem to remember this was it 2014, a somewhat younger, maybe 9 years younger, George Brauchler standing on the steps of the Capitol, the state Capitol.
Oh, thank God. Yeah.
Saying, let Israel finish the job. I'm pretty sure that's something. Let Israel win.
That sounds about right.
Finish the job.
Yeah.
And they didn't do it then, as Israel was not permitted to finish the job then. I think the intent here is really to make sure that happens.
Do you have that worry? Are you sensing from different sources, either people or things you're reading, that there is waning support for Israel in Congress?
Not necessarily Congress, but Congress doesn't matter as much as we think it does. The administration can decide that it wants to stop resupplying, or that it wants to put, the administration has a million levers that it can use if it wants to put pressure. So, for instance, a couple of days ago, you heard, Hezbollah has been kind of, I should say, let me back up 1 second. The war itself is not completely unexpected. What was unexpected was that it came from Gaza rather than from Lebanon. And so that it started from Gaza rather than from Hezbollah in Lebanon. And the Israeli army the Israeli, or the IDF, the armed forces, has been working since 2006. A lot of lessons learned in 2006, and has put together a battle plan for Lebanon, for Hezbollah, that they have tremendous confidence in terms of the ability to minimize their own casualties, use combined arms, use sort of the Western method of combined arms against these guys in a way that they've just rain hell down on them if it comes to that. Well, so far the administration has sort of been trying to keep a lid on that, and for a number of reasons, and not all of them benign, but they've been trying to keep a lid on that. And so you had Secretary of Defense Austin calling the Israeli Defense Minister Gallant and saying, listen, guys, cool it, as though Israel were the problem. So, I think there's been a sense that the administration has not really given up on its overall Middle Eastern strategy of appeasement of Iran.
Good in terms of, as long as it doesn't cause them to shift off of support entirely for Israel. I don't mind them saying the things out loud they think they need to say. Like, I presume some of this is political as well, and they need to mouth some words. As long as it doesn't take carriers out of the sea, as long as it doesn't stop the support that we've offered to hold back Hezbollah, I'm okay with the garbage they say. I just don't want them to change what they're doing.
Well, like I say, we'll see. I mean, my feeling is that Israel would love to, in turn, have the opportunity to hit Hezbollah first. Hezbollah kind of got wrong-footed on this, and it's been some low-grade back and forth. Nasrallah gave his long diatribe of a speech. I guess it was last week, and in essence, they said, "Well, we might still ramp things up, and we're serving a very important purpose by keeping Israeli troops pinned down in the north." And as it turns out, that turns out to not to have been such a big deal, because the Israeli operations in Gaza have, thank God, and we don't want to get arrogant here, but so far, thank God, have gone better than expected. Fewer casualties on the Israeli side than feared, and many more intelligence assets picked up. When they pick up one of these Hamas locations, they tend to get a lot of maps and battle plans and stuff like that as well. And now you're starting to see in the south, where some of the Hamas people have fled, you're starting to, in the south of Gaza, you're starting to see the average Gazan maybe taking the opportunity to stand up a little bit against Hamas. There are reports that
would be great.
Israel is getting getting a lot of intelligence help, or some intelligence help, from the average Gazan near Gaza City, to the degree that they can, when they come in contact with the civilians, that they're sort of pointing that, well, this is where these guys are hiding. Can you do something about that? And so things have gone better there than expected, and they would love the opportunity to get the first punch in against Hezbollah, because there sort of figures that this is going to happen anyway. While they're mobilized, they may as well go ahead and deal with that. But it's sort of like in 1967. People forget 1967. They struck the Egyptians first, but once it became clear that within a couple of days there were going to be UN resolutions calling for ceasefires and so forth, they kind of took the opportunity to stick it to the Syrians.
Oh yeah,
and the Syrians had had it coming. I mean, they had been lobbing shells over from the Golan Heights into the Galilee, into the hitting farmers and hitting civilians. They kind of had it coming. This wasn't a just out of the blue operation against Syria. But they would love to be able to do the same thing to Hezbollah, and it is likely that the administration is going to try to keep that from happening.
Dang it! We're talking with Josh Sharf. I'm looking right now at that website I told you about called Understanding War, which has been a great tool for me to have a better concept of what's going on with Ukraine. But they also have an interactive map right now of Israel and Gaza, the whole thing, and the whole area. And I think, folks, if you want to understand just geographically the predicament that Israel is in 100% of the time, 24/7, go check this thing out. And it gives you a sense of not only where the actual combat operations are taking place, but how everything is co-located. And there's just, you look at this map, and I know, Josh, you know this thing probably by heart, but if you just look at Israel's borders, I mean, outside of Jordan, which has been pretty darn good, and in Israel that historically wasn't, but lately has been really good, I mean, you can just see how precarious the situation is for Israel. You can also see that river that shows up in that chant, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free." It's pretty clear what they mean when you look at this map. The other thing that I have heard.
Let me sneak in there just for 1 second.
Yeah.
Something that it's clear, when they say "from the river to the sea, Palestine," it's clear what they're calling for. I mean, they're calling for the death or expulsion of every Jew in Israel. There have been friends of mine. It's been a thing to start posting on various social media, people who live in Israel, naming the city that they live in, saying, I live in Beit Shemesh, which is between the river and the sea, to sort of make that point. And that these are real people. This is not just populations that are. It's not markers on a map. These are real people that they want to kill.
How many days are you going to be out there, man? I know you're busy, so.
I'm flying back tonight. I flew out on the red eye. I'm flying back tonight. Yeah.
So, and we're going to have you on tomorrow to talk about, hey, this is what I saw. This is, these are all the fights I got in, all that stuff.
Well, I'm desperate. You know, the DC police are pretty good. The DC police see this sort of thing all the time, and they are pretty good at keeping groups separated, at saying, listen, you want to have a counter demo? Okay, here's the location where you can do that. They keep good separation. They deal with this sort of thing a lot. I would expect counter demonstrations, and I'm not expecting anything really bad to break out. So
yeah, I hope you're right, man.
I don't expect that we're putting ourselves in harm's way here. I think the DC police are pretty good at that. So.
I hope you're right. I do remember being at the Capitol at one point, and there were still, and it never turned physical, but I was still surprised at how many people that were opposed to Israel, and in my opinion, anti-Semitic, who showed up to let everybody know that's how they feel. I'm interested to see if they can be overwhelmed tomorrow. If you were thinking, by the way, about storming the Capitol, they now have plans to address that. But you know what someone's never done? I'm just planting the seed, is storm the Supreme Court. I don't know what you accomplished there. I'm just saying, if you're looking for something new and novel in the let's take over government realm, that's something. Maybe you guys can take over the Supreme Court.
Well, to the best of my knowledge, I'm looking at the list, and it is, I think, Chuck, we'll see. I mean, Chuck Schumer is one of the speakers. Maybe he'll explain why, they deserve to reap the whirlwind or something.
Oh my God. Have you followed, I don't want to it doesn't have to be all Israel today, even though you're there for an important thing. But speaking of the Supreme Court, which I just threw in there, have you had a chance at all to look at this story about yesterday? They came out with their 7 canons of their new ethical guiding principles.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing in there that's a problem. The problem is that they're conceding to another branch of government internally how they should be run. And traditionally, the Supreme Court has been very loath to tell the executive branch internally how it should be run, how it should run itself. Again, within parameters of the law set by Congress. It almost never tells Congress how it should run itself. I think it's I think it's at risk of kind of losing the moral high ground here on what is clearly a concerted campaign by the left to undermine the legitimacy of the court now that they don't control it anymore.
Well, I'm fascinated by it. I'm just starting to get through it. I wanted to talk about it on the show. This code of conduct for justices of the Supreme Court of the United States. It's online. Anyone can find it. The part that I haven't seen yet, and I'm not even sure how it would ever work, is an enforcement mechanism. I mean, these seem like largely aspirational goals, but if they don't follow them, then what? It's not like they could even vote to expel a member off the Supreme Court island. That's just not how the system works.
Yeah, there's not really an enforcement mechanism. The only thing what you could do, I suppose, is that it would give, if Congress wanted to impeach a justice, which they can do, if someone wanted to do that, then a clear violation of the code of ethics or code of conduct might provide standing for them to do that, but not standing, but some basis on which they could do that.
I want to take a look and see what precedent there is for that. I get committing a crime. I get that stuff. But is a violation of an ethical canon that they put upon, I'm just talking out loud, is that grounds for an impeachment of a justice? I just don't know the answer. It's very interesting. I was telling Billy, we saw the same thing here in Colorado. You were here for this, where in successive years, Republicans would come forward and say, hey, the Supreme Court and the judicial branch of the state of Colorado is not subject to Cora. It should be, even if it's not a complete, eclipse with the requirements of the executive and the legislative, they have to be able to be answerable to the rest of the people. And so that got defeated multiple times. And finally, over public pressure, the Supreme Court came out and said, here are the rules by which we will agree to release information, like their own version of court, but it's unenforceable. I mean, you'd have to go to them to enforce it. Like, well, you can take us to court. Oh, by the way, that's us. I mean, it's a very weird situation. And this is kind of like that.
Well, yeah. I mean, one of the checks here, to be fair, is that, the Supreme Court is not, it's not self-selecting. I mean, at least when someone passes away or resigns, at least there is some check there. I want to just briefly, this for a little bit of fun history here, that early on there was a concern. It was understood when the Supreme Court when the Constitution was written, that the Supreme Court would be kind of the last decisor of what was constitutional and what wasn't, in terms of legislation or in terms of actions of the executive, and that was in the air, even though it wasn't explicitly stated. It was in the air. It was mentioned in the Federalist. It was mentioned in some writing prior to that would happen. One of the and that there was no real way of overruling the court except by the constitutional amendment. Well, what happened was, one of the other mechanisms that was written in was that Congress could impeach justices, could remove justices, and there were two efforts to do that. There was one that was successful at a district level, or I should say an appeals court level. Well, there was no appeals court. It was a district. It was a federal judge in New England who was clearly insane. I mean, he was clearly not right, and he needed to be removed. As a question, can you remove somebody who hasn't done anything, willfully wrong?
Yeah.
But he's bonkers, and so the Congress was able to get rid of him. There was a succeeding attempt to remove
Seems
a
bit
Supreme
ironic,
Court justice,
by the way, that
which
Congress could
yeah,
do that.
well, yes, and then the wisdom of crowds, I guess, and all that.
That's it.
And
yes.
so so there was a succeeding attempt to remove a Supreme Court justice, which, if anything, was a clearer cut case of abuse of the bench, abuse of power of the bench, and it failed. Up until that point, John Marshall, who was the Supreme Court, the Chief Justice at that point, was willing to sort of bargain. He was willing to consider, bargaining away the inviolability of Supreme Court decisions, to provide some mechanism for Congress by a vote to override a Supreme Court decision if they would get rid of the impeachment. He felt impeachment was just too strong. Well, it turns out that Congress felt impeachment was too strong, and it became clear it was never going to be really used. And so after the impeachment of Justice Chase failed, then all that was off the table. And Jefferson, of all people, was sort of left lamenting that there were no real checks on the court's power, and that they'd be able to kind of do what they wanted to do. But so this goes back a long way. These struggles between the branches, and this specific question of what do you do with a justice who has misbehaved in some way. Not that, and I want to be careful, not that the accusations against Alito or Thomas have any real substance to them, but that if there were something that had real substance to it, what would you do?
Right.
And so this question goes back really to the very beginning of the court.
I think I speak for everyone listening when I ask, why do you know this? Like, what have you done? Like, didn't you spend time in your youth with the young internet just trying to get Playboy.com to show up on the computer screen instead of reading? Like, what have you done with your free time? It sounds like reading.
It's a real problem. Yeah. My parents did this terrible thing to me that we're doing to David, which is teaching him to read. It's a
a risk too, because once you arm them with education and an ability to talk, you lose control in some ways. It's just very, very difficult. Yes. Hey, someone texted in, are there any pro-Israel rallies planned in Colorado?
So there had been one a couple of weeks ago. To the best of my knowledge, there's nothing on the docket now, but there may be. I mean, depending on how long this thing continues to go on, there may be. It would not surprise me, and I have no particular information that this is going to happen. Right? So I am, and it would take a little while for it to show up. So this is all completely speculative, and I want to be clear about that. But it would not surprise me if the Palestinian legislator, as she likes to call herself, Iman Joda, proposed a bill to repeal the anti-boycott, divestment, sanction legislation that was passed, I want to say in 2016. It wouldn't surprise me if she tried to do that. And it would, and now she hasn't said that she will. I don't think it's even come up. We have a sufficiently passive and uncurious press corps, when it comes to these sorts of things. So she hasn't been asked about it.
And
but
then
it
she
wouldn't
would
surprise me
expect
if there were a bill
Governor
like that.
Polis to sign that? I mean,
Well, I don't know. I mean, you push it through. What do? You push it through, you make your arguments, you sort of gain momentum for it. I mean, this is what happens, right? I mean, you try to do things that
that's
fail.
a dream for
And
Republicans. Pretty please run that bill, please.
But if she does, then there might be something planned at that point. I don't know of anything coming up now.
I've heard of some folks talking about some organizing some things. It was a conversation about 10 days ago, maybe it could have been upwards of 2 weeks ago. It was after the other thing, but talking about doing one. I haven't heard anything since. So there's something out there.
Well, if it does, then I would ask people. I know you will publicize it. I know other people will publicize it, and it's really important to show up to these things. It doesn't seem important. There was one, I said a couple of weeks ago, there was one this past Sunday, not 2 days ago, but the prior Sunday, where it was at Wash Park. And we got a nice turnout. We got, I would guess, maybe 1,000 people or so.
Still, that's something.
To show up for that. So, it's they do matter. They do matter in terms of showing we on the right are not as skilled and organized and sometimes as the people on the left are in terms of putting these things together,
except for January 6th. But nonetheless, you're right. Your point otherwise is spot on. We when we go big. I mean,
yeah.
Oh, you call that a protest? Try this on.
Try that. Yeah, right. But you want to protest? I'll show you.
Yeah, that's right. But
the
hold my AR.
Yeah, right. But this one here, I mean, look at the news tonight. I think people will be. I'm
optimistic, and man, you foolishly agreed to come back on tomorrow to kind of give us, hey, how it all turned out. Hopefully, it was super successful and super boring when it comes to confrontations and counter protests. But honestly, part of me hopes I see you on CNN with someone in a headlock. I don't know if that can be made to happen, but it would be a great story tomorrow.
Well, I'm afraid that what's more likely is if something comes across. Listen, our side, I will promise you this: our side, passions run high. We ain't going to start it.
Yeah.
And so, but I don't want to be downwind of the tear gas if the
good point.
If the DC police is up.
Don't touch your eyes. Whatever you do, don't touch your eyes. I'm just giving you that advice.
Thank you. No, that's good to know. No, thank you. I didn't bring goggles. And I just, it's an experience in my life that I have thus far avoided. I would hope to continue.
The governor has a pair of goggles, by the way. I saw him use them the other day as he tried to, Mr. Burns that glass case with the looks like a special session piece of paper in there. Someday I want to know who set that up and choreographed that and thought this is going to be the bomb. Who is that former employee? Hey, we'll talk about that at some other point. Josh Sharf from the Independence Institute, but not there for the Independence Institute, there for all the other right reasons. Thanks for joining us, man.
Thank you, George. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
I'll talk to you tomorrow. We're going to try to get Josh on Zoomy tomorrow as well. We thought we might be able to pull that off today. That's our big next thing, by the way. If you're on the Rumbles and the YouTubes, we are going to go video. We're just getting the first kinks out. We thought Josh would be a good test case. Listen, I got to cut away. Gone a little bit long, but I love talking with Josh. The guy just knows stuff. I throw something out about the Supreme Court, and he gives me some history of impeaching Supreme Court justices. He's like Alexa, but in a different way. Like if I ask Alexa anything about this show, she knows every single fact. If I have Josh about anything, I don't get it. I don't know where these smart people come from, but I'm glad we have them on our team. Hey, listen, I got to tell you about something special that's coming up. December 8th is going to be Colorado Gives Day. I am going to be live and local right there at Step Denver. And one of the things Billy and I just talked about doing, I've been telling you, I'm going to give this car, this 2011 Chevy Trail. I'm going to do it on that day. I don't know how we pre-wire the tow because it's a very easy, hassle-free tow at 303-296-9020. But I'm going to do that. I'm going to work that out with Vincent. I'm going to bring him the title, give it to him there. They clean it up. They maximize the value for the tax benefit that I get for the contribution. And then they use it to get a person, a man in the door for this program. Each vehicle gets a guy in the door for this life-saving, soul-saving program, it's not easy, folks. It's not like 100% of the people. It's not even 50% of the people that get in that make it. But those that, and they have a higher success rate than any government-run program. That's why they don't take government bucks, because government doesn't know what it's doing. But at the end of the day, when these men come out of this program, they are self-sufficient. They are good people. They are contributing members of society, and they have gotten that addiction, homelessness monkey off their back. If you want to be part of the solution and not just gripe about it, this is how you do it. 303-296-9020 or visit stepdenver.org, stepdenver.org. When we come back, love to get your thoughts on what's going on there. I've got some other topics I want to talk about too, but would you go to a rally if there were another pro-Israel rally at the Capitol? Would you go there? 303-696-1971. And do you even think about what's going on in Israel? For Josh, I imagine it's all the time, every day. Is it for you? Do you think about what's going on there? If not, why not? George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.
Say goodbye to clutter and hello to convenience when you experience organization transformation in your home. Roll 'em Out Shelves, your clutter transformation experts, create affordable Colorado-crafted organized storage solutions. These custom options will maximize and organize your kitchen and bath storage as Roll 'em Out Shelves carefully designs and builds roll-out drawers to fit your space perfectly. To clear the clutter, contact owners Joyce and Brent at Roll 'em Out Shelves to schedule your free in-home estimate today.
With a light look through the 7:10 game U.S. windows right here as we approach 7:42 in the AMs. It's me, George, on the George Show. My thanks to Josh Sharf. I love talking to that guy. Although, candidly, he makes me think I've wasted a lot of my life not learning stuff because the dude just knows stuff. Same thing talking with Alexa, either on the text or in person. I just don't know where people store all this information. I've got such a small brain. I'm just thankful that I know our team's mascots. You know, I mean, that's like the big thing for me. And here Josh is knowing this history stuff. We're going to get back to Josh tomorrow and find out how that rally went. One of the things Billy and I were talking about off air, and this matters to me. This is an interesting thing. What's going on with all the anti-Semitism? Like, where is it coming from? And I've heard other people ask this question, and even people have texted in here to ask this question, and that is, why do people hate the Jews? What's going on with the Jews? It's not just Zionists. It's not just Israel. It's what is going on globally that this event has seemed to make it okay, and maybe we should be thankful, make it okay for people to stand up and identify themselves as anti-Semites. The part I don't get is all the cover that the left gives them and saying, no, that's not anti-Semitic. That's something else. No, it's anti-Semitic. If you utter the phrase from the river to the sea, you are an anti-Semite. There's just no other way around it, because it would, I mean, I don't know what else to say. If you stood up and said death to Jews and Israel, but I'm not anti-Semitic. I'm just saying that's that's what from the river to the sea means. I don't care what you say about the Palestinian freedom thing. You're talking about wiping out Israel and the Jews that are in Israel. And it does make me wonder, are we not able to get past anti-Semitism? Are we just not able to get there as a people? Now, I've heard some people say that, hey, we're in this post-racist America. That's not true either, man. There are still racists out there. Do I think it's like it was back in the 50s, 60s in America? No, not at all. We've made incredible progress, but we're not there yet, right? But this anti-Semitism thing, dang. What is causing all of this hatred of Jews and Israel? I want to hear from you. And it's going to be tough, right? There are going to be folks out there who have their own thoughts about it. Call in and use a different name. I don't care. But tell me what you're thinking. And if it's not you, tell me what you're hearing out there in the community. When people say things that are anti-Semitic, that are Jew-hating, what's the reason for it? What are they telling you? Where is this deep-seated hatred from? Is it contempt for them because, I don't know, because of their success? Is it contempt because there's something about the tenets of their religion that you disagree with? I just don't know where it comes from. I don't get it. Now, I grew up in a household that had a Pentecostal father and a devout Roman Catholic mother. And yet never for a single moment did we ever have a conversation that I would consider to be other than completely accepting and supportive of other faiths, specifically Judaism. Now, it may be because my dad's grandfather was Jewish, even though it never got down to our level. I mean, maybe that's it. I don't know. I just never got the feeling that as a Christian, I was in the business of condemning Jews simply because they didn't accept Christ as their savior. That's their own issue, right? That's their own thing to deal with. But I just have never gotten to that place. So I don't think it's religious, at least not on the Judeo-Christian side of the ledger. I don't think it's a tenet of mainstream Muslim faith. I just don't know that faith that well. But what we do know, and Billy was telling me about something that he came across, one of the founding principles, if that's the right term, for Hamas is the end to all Jews and the destruction of Israel. Okay, if that's that organization and you're a Palestinian and you're decrying what you think Israel's doing in the Gaza Strip, how do you not begin with, We condemn Hamas. We want Hamas to be gone. We'll do everything we can to rid ourselves of Hamas. And oh, by the way, we condemn Israel for whatever happened with a hospital or something like that. I don't know how it doesn't start that way. But
in fact, George, I just want to go back in. This is the piece of the Hamas founding document that I had found.
Okay, this is that thing you were telling me about
this weekend. And it reads, all of Israel, Gaza, and the West Bank is consecrated for future Muslim generations until Judgment Day. It or any part of it should not be squandered. It or any part of it should not be given up. The day of judgment will not come about until Muslims fight the Jews, killing the Jews. When the Jews will hide behind stones and trees, the stones and trees will say, "O Muslims, O Allah, there is a Jew behind me. Come and kill him." That is from the Hamas founding documents. You know,
I feel like we should. I don't know why they can't have meaningful negotiations with an organization like that has cut off the heads of Israeli babies and then has that as a founding principle. Again, and I've said this from the very beginning, and I've asked the folks we've had on the show this, is there any place on a civilized planet for Hamas? I have yet to find someone, and this includes Bamba, who says, yes, I need to hear Bamba call in and decry Hamas, because so far he hasn't. It's always been about, but the Jews, but Israel, but Israel, but Israel. I don't want to hear any buts. I just want to hear straight up, yep, Hamas is evil. Hamas needs to go. Every last one of them needs to go. I don't remember at any point during World War II, or at least towards the end of it, anyone saying, can't we just come to terms with the Nazis? It was destroy the Nazis, destroy them to the point where Germany outlaws them. They don't care about the freedom of expression thing. They've outlawed the Nazi party. Just not going to happen. I don't know. Here's some texts that have come in here. Anti-Semitism will remain as long as Christians believe the Jews killed Jesus. What? Like, I read the New Testament. I feel like there was something about Jews participating in the whole thing with the Jesus and the cross and all that stuff. Wasn't that in the book? Huh? No, Hitler didn't need that as well. Hamas does not believe in from the river to the sea. They believe from the river back around to the same river. That is a much better line. From the river to the river, all Jews. That's such an insightful text right there. Here's George, and the Jews are such a nice and respectful people that think, live, and let live, and they're always smiling. That's from our friend Eric. I don't know that that's true of any people, but I do. All the folks that I know, friends and colleagues who have been Jewish, and I mean practicing Jews, they've always been incredibly tolerant. I don't know how else to describe it. Incredibly respectful of differences. I don't get it. Here's, hold on, I missed one. Here's our buddy Joan. I would go to a rally for Israel here in Colorado. Me too. I think they should have it near Hanukkah, maybe 12/8, the first day of Hanukkah. Well, that's Colorado Gives Day. Joan, that would be an interesting day to do that. Here's another text. Imagine Omar and the squad proposing to impeach Justice Thomas. I wonder how that would turn out. There's more text, but listen, once again, I've gotten us into a position with my poor time management where I've left us little time other than for me to tell you that if you're a guy, listen up. This is a guy thing, not so much a woman thing. Advanced hair restoration. You've heard me start to talk about these folks, and that's because they're in the business of making you happier and feel better about yourself. Now, listen, if you don't care about your hairline, your hair's been thinning, you've been growing it over, you've been trying to comb it over, you're wearing more hats, and it doesn't bother you. Hey, we're heading into winter, I'll just wear a beanie. It doesn't matter. If that's you, then hair restoration isn't for you. But if you're someone who's like, damn it, I felt better and I looked better when I had that full head of hair, these are the folks that can put you in that position again. Think about this. Modern technology, top-rated physicians, simple solution. That's advanced hair restoration. You start by going to the website, advancedhair.com, advancedhair.com. Easy to remember. But once you do that, and the number's on the website, but I'm going to give it to you anyway, you pick up the phone and call them, 720-459-HAIR, 720, that's local, 459-HAIR, H-A-I-R, not the rabbit. If you qualify, and I wish I could tell you every single person that calls is going to qualify, they're not, but the ones that do, the majority of those that call do, you get $250 off and 250 free hair grafts when you do this procedure. It starts growing right away, folks. Within the next day, you're already starting to see a difference, and that's a permanent fix. Give them a shot at advancedhair.com. When we come back, you, me, whatever little time we have left as we head into the 8. It's George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. We're halfway through. It's going to be 70 degrees out there. If you get a chance to go outside, today's the day because it only gets cooler from here. And if you believe the prognosticators for weather, and we don't, after 3 days, they have said they just simply don't know. It's going to get cold and wet out there this weekend. So if today's the day you got a little time, maybe take the dog for a walk, go for a stroll or run, just drive with the windows down. This is it, man. This is your best day this week to do it. I fully intend to have a conversation with you about some stuff that's taken place with the Denver Post regarding Elijah McClain. But as you know, this show, unlike all of the other AM talk shows out there, really lives for the interactions that we have with you on text and the calls. So if you call in on a topic that we've been covering and it fits, of course, we're going to take you on board here. So I'm going to start with Tony. Tony from Littleton. You're on 710 KNUS. Tony, what are your thoughts?
Hey, good morning. So the one thing, trying to understand the anti-Semitism, and I'm not saying I've got the answer, but I at least have thought a little bit about it. And I think we have to discern between two types of anti-Semitism that's gone on in this country and has been accelerating. First, when you think of the synagogue in Pittsburgh and the Charlottesville, the marches, "You will not replace us, blood and soil," and all of that. That really violent thread is been accelerating over the last decade, and that's kind of the white nationalist thing. I mean, that's what's accounted for the violence that the FBI is recording in terms of against a religion, kind of terrorism against religion, and that's one bucket. Then you have this other bucket.
But what's the source of it? Like, what do you think is going on?
Well, that I'm not. That's not all that. That one's not all that complicated. I mean, that is just the whole white nationalist thing that's gone on in this country. That is, we've given the okay. We include those groups. I mean, those are the same groups that marched on the Capitol on the 6th of January. It's the same type of violent solution to problems that was for forever nobody accepted. I remember when David Duke was going to endorse H.W. Bush, I think it was, he said, "No, thank you. I don't want your kind. I don't want and now that's Trump's foot soldiers, so that's that bucket. That's kind of easy to understand.
I don't know if they're his foot soldiers. There are a ton of them that support him. There's no doubt about it. But of all the things to impugn Trump on, I'm not sure you can say all of his supporters or a big chunk of them are white supremacists. That's just not fair.
No. I will say this. Not every Republican is a white supremacist, but most white supremacists have found it comforting in the Republican Party for some reason. And that's a whole different day's discussion. I'm actually looking at the other bucket that seems, I think, is more complicated and that's this group that may be responding to for 50 years, our position was two-state solution. And we give more aid to Israel than any other country, and that for the last 50 years. Every year over year, we give more aid to Israel. And forever, we kind of pounded that two-state solution idea. Well, that went away. And I don't mean to, during the Trump administration, straight away. And Netanyahu and Trump were soul brothers on this. And that, I think, is now causing us problems with maybe kids that are going, I say kids, young people that are going through colleges and so forth, and they're looking at what looks like an apartheid system. And it's hard not to say it's an apartheid system when the governing body controls the water, the flow of goods, the flow of power, everything to 2 million people. Now, I'm stepping up to say what Hamas did. You've asked this question. There is no room on earth for Hamas.
Right.
And what they did, Israel has a right to defend themselves. Absolutely. All I'm saying is that they laid the predicate made it okay for Hamas to take this position, this attack, And again, I'm not blaming Israel. I'm simply making the point that the predicate may have been laid when we went for 4 years and kind of walked away. And they felt like, whether Palestinians writ large, Hamas as a microcosm, they felt like, okay, now they're negotiating with other Arab countries to seal deals between countries, and we don't matter to anybody. You see Biden, and by the way, I listened to your show the other day when that guy came back and he said Israel would elect Biden prime minister today.
Yeah.
And that's with him defending them. Absolutely, you have a right to defend yourself, but at the same time, he's trying to get corridors to get aid in there. He's trying to lower the death toll, all of that, and Israel still is according to your friend, and which I'd heard in multiple places now. They're in a mixed place over there right now, because they know there's a large portion of their population agrees they're going to have to get to a two-state. You're going to have a political solution ultimately, because you can't kill 2 million people. In fact, I mean, something that I have been, a number I have been using, when this death toll gets to 20, and when this death toll gets to 20,000, that would be the equivalent of the Jews Israel having 100,000 people killed on October 7th, or us having 3 million people killed on 9/11. Now, how would our nation react if 3 million people were killed, or how would Israel be reacting if they had 100,000 people killed? And so my point is, when 20,000 are killed, this is what I think Biden's trying to avoid, and that's having this thing spread. But if it gets to a high number like that, Saudi Arabia, all kinds of neutral countries, their people are going to rise up in the street and say this is not okay. And I think that's what Biden is trying to avoid. And I made the number up 20,000 just because that parallel that I drew across all three countries.
Though, Tony, I'm at the point where I don't think they care about a two-state solution. They being the Palestinians. I think that has just been an issue that they could focus on all this time. Israel has offered land. They've given up land. They've withdrawn from Gaza, all this stuff. I think at the end of the day, if they were to say tomorrow, two-state solution, let's make it happen, it would change nothing. It would change nothing.
One thing is, you get your experts and you have them come through, especially the professor.
Yeah.
Ask her about the West Bank development and how much that has caused problems for both Palestine, or Palestinians anyways, and Israel. That West Bank development, which we were against forever. We would never say it's okay. And now it's like been made okay. And I think that is the thorn in the side. It's, over what's going on in Gaza, which is bad enough with Hamas running them. Yeah. But the Fatah is not much better on the other side, other than they're just corrupt. They're just corrupt. As long as the leaders can take in money, they actually don't care what happens to their population in general. So, but ask the professor.
Remind me, Tony, because I know you listen regular. When I get Professor Ishai back on, please text me or call in and remind Billy, because I'll forget. And if I make a note, I won't have it with me when we have her on. But it's a good question. Please remind me.
All right. Thanks for the time.
Appreciate it, man. Bye. Hey, Tony's line is open at 303-696-1971. Jim, I do want to get to your topic here, and this is a question about this vote that took place in the House. But do me a favor, Jim, hang on for a minute, because Brian has called in about the anti-Semitism thing. We're just on that thread for a moment. So if you hang on, I promise I'll get to you. Brian, you're on 710 KNUS. What do you think?
Hey, George. Good morning.
Hey, sir.
Well, I think this is going back centuries. So trying to figure this out in a few hours isn't going to work.
I'm more interested, though, not the historic hatred that exists between the Arabs and the Israelis in certain aspects. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying, like, even here in America or in Europe, where is all this anti-Jew stuff coming from? Like, what's the source of it? Because they can't, these college kids, they can't tie it to, their cultural beliefs with Muslim faith or Arabs and all that. I mean, where is it coming from? Why is it okay to hate Jews for so many people?
You know, I've been trying to figure that out, and you know, dating myself, I was in college in the mid 90s, and I remember my professor, my political science professor, was a history class. I was a political science major. He's showing us videos, and we're doing Plato and Aristotle and all that stuff. And then then all of a sudden he shows a video of the atrocities that the IDF are committing in Palestine territories, and showing how they go in and we're all looking at each other like, what is this all about?
Yeah.
And he's saying, you know, well, this is what happens when, you know, Romans occupied lands and they came back and look what happened to Rome fell. And then, you know, America came in and occupied, and we're going to fall, and and now Israel's going to fall. And I'm just showing this to you guys to show you all that occupied lands fall. And I'm like, so this is what's happening when I was getting this garbage in 95, 96.
Do you encounter it in your everyday life now, man, as a full-grown adult and all this, or was that an academic thing? Like, in part, I'm wanting to believe that, okay, it's these elite lefty academics that are doing this, but are you encountering this elsewhere in your world?
I am at work. We were talking about the atrocities that the Hamas committed. And then a couple of people from work, they're younger than me, 10 years younger than me. They came in the next day and said, well, I talked to my wife who works with this guy, and Israel's been doing this for decades, and they sent all these Palestinians out on a bridge once, kicked them out of Gaza, and then bombed the bridge. And I'm going, where did you get this? My wife's friend who knows a lot about the Middle East, he's showed us these videos, and some of these videos are fake that are showing Hamas do these things. They're from decades ago, and everyone believes it's happening now. So I'm like, it's permeated from when I was getting it. It's gotten worse, but see where it's all rooted, I have no idea. And it's left. It's coming from the left. And I'll push back where he said white supremacists, they're not all from Republicans, but most of them are. Well, how about the squad? How about the anti-Semites on the left?
That's for sure.
He can't, your last caller can't call out those people, on the left who BLM, burn things down. They hate the Jews, death to the Jews. I didn't hear him call out one of those people, but he'll call out, the white supremacists that support Trump.
Do you think that's part of the weakness here, is that we are struggling to find the courage to call out, whether it's conservatives or not conservatives, the liberals and progressives, for this kind of stuff? I mean, is that the problem that we're running into?
Well, I see Christians and most Republicans calling out white supremacists all the time, but I don't see a lot of people on the left, like Jared Polis, who's Jewish. I don't see him out there condemning Hamas. I don't see your last caller condemning people saying, who are out there to the sea, to the river, to the sea, like Habib and those other ones. You don't see the left is scared to condemn those people. That's the other part I can't figure out. How are Democrats, how many Democrats are going to be at this pro-Israel rally in D.C.? Come on. You probably
I don't know. I don't know. It's a good question.
Why? Because they're scared. They're scared of
politically
going against the squad.
I think politically.
Why? The squad is a minority. They are a minority in this country.
You didn't hear either Secretary of State, the Attorney General, or the governor call out Tim Hernandez for his performance there celebrating Hamas on October the 7th. They never use his name. They never condemn him. Now, my hat's off to
there was one Democrat that did.
From the state Senate, and gosh dang it, and I can't remember her name. Billy might remember her name, and I'm sure Alexa does, but she came out hard against him, and I'm like, okay, good. That's great, right? I mean, you even had guys like David Ortiz who came out and said, while we disagree on this issue, I'm like, that's like disagreeing on racism. Like, well, some of us can believe that blacks are inferior or whites are inferior. It's like, no, dude, it's just wrong. Every single time it's wrong. And you're right, man. They're palsied in their ability or will to move forward and to try to condemn it. Is that what you think our weakness is? I mean, that's interesting that it's like, hey, we don't call it out. Why wouldn't we expect it to thrive?
Well, you're right. We don't. And look at all the pro-Palestinian, whatever you want to call it, rallies that were in Canada, and we're talking thousands of people. I didn't see thousands and tens of thousands of white supremacists march around, which I condemn. I'm Hispanic. I hate white supremacists.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, there's not thousands of them allowed to go down and nobody condemns them. But yeah, we have these thousands of pro-Palestinian movements all over the country, all over colleges. No Democrats condemning them. No Democrat is condemning them. Maybe one or two. So the Democrat Party needs to look within. The Republicans will condemn and purge white supremacists. Democrats won't purge.
Well, we
won't
had
purge.
that Charlottesville thing was an issue, right? I mean, that was an issue.
Yeah, but I mean, Trump making a verbal thing saying both people on good sides, what he meant was there was people protesting for a cause that weren't white supremacists, and there was white supremacists. That's what he was making the distinction of. He wasn't calling white supremacists good people and then the anti-people good people. He was saying there were some people down there for a cause that weren't white supremacists, that don't want monuments to be taken down. I don't want monuments to be taken down. I don't want statues to be taken down. Doesn't make me a white supremacist.
Yeah, this is an issue that in some ways is complicated by the history that you started off with, but in other ways it seems so much clearer, and without giving cover to any part of the political ideological spectrum. We just simply have to call it out and denounce it everywhere it shows itself. And we're just not willing to do that. We got to call out our own, man, you and me, and we got to force the Dems to do the same thing. And they're not willing to do it either. They just sort of shrug it off. The problem that they're going to run into is something's going to happen where some other protected group they care about is going to suffer something bad. And they're going to want Republicans to decry it or want Republicans to call out one of their own for showing up at some rally. And someone's going to say, Tim Hernandez.
Well, a lot of Muslims believe in Sharia law, which is totally not. Women don't have rights, can't drive a car, can't go outside without being face covered. They're anti-homosexual. So, like, these Democrats are supporting causes in the Middle East that are against civil liberties. So I don't understand it, but they'll do it to hate Israel. But these people, the Sharia law that exists in a lot of these Muslim countries is totally against civil liberties for women, homosexuals, you name it, Christians, religion. There's no freedom over there, but yet they'll stand in for their
crazy.
Cause.
Absolutely crazy.
It's demented, and it's dementia to follow something like that. But I think you hit the nail on the head, George. Both sides have to call it out.
Got to do it.
Or we're just going to go back and forth.
Hey, Brian, thanks for the great call as always, man. Brian's line is open at 303-696-1971. We have Jim on the phone. Bamba, thank you for calling in, man. Let's have a great conversation about this. I've got to cut away for a break. I'm not allowed to do it until I get the joy of telling you about my mouth. Anyway, the teeth inside of it. Let's be honest. Twin Aspen Dental Center, I have praised them since I started going to them. And this is one of those things, and you're starting to pick up on this, I hope. I just don't do live reads just because. I've got to either experience it myself or know someone who has and get that trusted testimonial. Here's my testimonial to you. Twin Aspen Dental Center, Doctors Richter and Snyder, they're the best. I've only had, in my lifetime that I recall, 3 dentists. I never, ever, and if you're an Army dentist, I'm sorry, but I've never, ever, never let the Army do a single thing other than look at my mouth, because I get the feeling these guys are like racking up promotions based on how many teeth they pull or something like that. You're just not going to get that feeling at Twin Aspen Dental. These are the folks that come in, and the first time they'll sit down, get to know you. It's low stress. It's not a conveyor belt, big box store kind of national chain of dentistry. They get to know you. They take a look around. They get your history, and they say, here's how we can make things better. And then they do it. And you feel like these people actually care about me. Even when I go in and there's like nothing to do except chisel away 6 months worth of tartar, I'm still having a great conversation. I feel like these people actually care, man. It's more than just a business transaction for them. If you want that experience and you're just not getting it now, take a knee. take a knee from your current dentist, especially if they change out every year or two. Go to the long term. Go to the community-based Twin Aspen Dental Center. They're located at Parker Road in Stroh, easy to get to. Check them out at twinaspendentalcenter.com, twinaspendentalcenter.com. But I'd give them a call. Just set the appointment. Just do it. 303-841-7466, 303-841-7466. And here's the thing. When you do it and you go in, your first reaction when you sit down is going to be, I can't believe I'm sitting here watching videos of dogs and cats. And I had the same reaction. Within like a minute, I'm like, look at that. That dog is, look at the cats are hugging. I mean, it's crazy how much it de-stresses you. And then the other thing is they'll say, hey, if you don't want to watch that, we'll put on anything that you want, with, of course, within reason, sports, whatever it is. I love these folks. You should too. When you call them, tell them George told you to do it. When we come back, we're going to get to Jim and Bamba and everybody else calling in at 303-696-1971. Also, dozens of texts. I'll try to get to those as well. George Brauchler, 710, KNUS. Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Got the phone lines going. One line open, 303-696-1971. Bamba, I promise I'll get to you. Thanks for calling in. I want to get to Jim from Littleton. Jim, you've been listening to the conversation. What are your thoughts?
Hey, George. Well, I wanted to change the subject a little bit there. So you've had Ken Buck on. Was it last week or the week before?
Last week and a bunch of times. I mean, Ken's been on a bunch of times.
Yeah. You kind of seem to be one of his fans. I will say that. You've never been very critical of him. And, I'm not. But anyway, they just had a...
Do you know Ken?
No, I don't.
Okay, so I know Ken. I've known Ken for probably 15 plus years. I've worked with Ken when he was an elected DA. I was an elected DA. I supported Ken when he ran for Congress. Remember, he was a Tea Party guy. So, I mean, I probably know Ken at a different level than you do. I mean, guy's got a son that went to West Point and served in uniform. That says something about mom and dad,
Okay. Well, I give him that. In that area. But this vote that just occurred concerning with trying to impeach DHS Secretary Mayorkas, and it failed as a result of 8 Republicans voting with the Democrats, and Ken Buck was one of them.
Okay, but tell me about the vote, because honestly, I just spent the last couple breaks along with Billy trying to chase down what that vote was and what it means and what it's for. Tell us what the vote was and why did Ken do it?
My understanding, it was to vote Mayorkas, impeach him as a result of failing to protect our border, which we have 10 million illegals that have crossed this border. He's not doing his job, so they wanted to impeach him. MTG's, she brought that forward, and it failed. We couldn't even impeach. This guy's not doing his job. He's actually facilitating illegals. He's facilitating drugs flowing through this country, and we can't even get rid of him because Republicans fail to support something as basic as this. I just have had it with the Republican Party. If you can't even protect your own citizens, and yet you claim to protect the unborn and all this other stuff, but existing people in the United States, you failed to even do that. I just had, to me, Ken Buck is part of the problem. Why I'm no longer a Republican.
No, I get that. But let's ask this question, though, and that is, have you made efforts to find out what he said about why he did it?
No, I didn't do that.
But why not?
But why not? Because
why not?
At this point, if you can't even impeach somebody that is failing to do the basics, I mean, clearly, what are we missing here?
Yeah,
what are we missing?
Well, here's what I did. First off, I reached out to the office and said, hey, can I get Ken on? They're looking at his schedule to see if we can't get him on to talk about this. But so then I was out here on Twitter, and he's got a long thread from this morning, 8:12 a.m. So that's just mere moments ago. And this is what it says. I'm going to read to you all this. While it is undeniable that Secretary Mayorkas has failed to execute his duties as head of the Department of Homeland Security, the responsibility for his appointment lies with President Joe Biden. The president, as the head of the executive branch, has the responsibility to select an able cabinet, and accountability for those choices ultimately falls with him. Gross incompetence is not grounds for impeachment. The impeachment process is a solemn constitutional mechanism reserved for cases of high crimes and misdemeanors. It is not a tool to address policy disagreements or negligence. Rather than embarking on a divisive and futile impeachment process, our focus should be on holding the Biden administration accountable through other actionable means. Now is not the time for another fruitless impeachment that is dead on arrival in the Senate. Now is the time, however, to focus on passing fiscally responsible appropriations bills and avoiding a shutdown. This work demands our immediate attention. What are your thoughts, man?
I think it's just a cover for him. At this point, I just think that anything we can do to bring attention to what's going on the border, i.e. the Republican Party, needs to happen. If it's impeaching, even though he doesn't agree, this is the mechanism for it. Going forward on this brings attention to what's going on the border and how it is just being mismanaged, I am for. And regardless of whether
Jim,
this
can I
is the
ask you,
direct
do you
route, this is the way-
disagree with his conclusion that, hey, this was never going to make it anywhere in the Senate? This was just
No,
going to
I
be some
agree.
performance art.
Frankly, yeah, anything that the Democrats don't agree with because they have control of the Senate isn't going to go forward.
That's right.
So bringing,
So does
I
it make
got
sense
that.
to
I
do
got
it
that.
for nothing?
I think bringing attention to what's going on the border is always a good idea because it's killing American citizens every day.
So how do you see it playing out if they had voted, the impeachment thing moves forward? And by the way, all it was going to do was refer the measure to the floor for a vote. This wasn't the actual vote on impeachment. If they had done that and they'd voted to impeach him and then it goes to the Senate, it gets defeated, what changes?
It has a discussion now in the Senate, and it just shows the complete failure of the Senate to protect our citizens.
So it's a political thing is what you're saying. It's to put the Democrats in the Senate on record for something.
You know, I just think at this point, I would like to see Fox or somebody else do what they did with COVID. Every time a COVID person died, they would have a little check. They have something on their TV set showing it. I'd like to see something with Fox doing how many illegals are coming through this country every day. You know, I would like to see that going on, you know, because frankly, we don't know. The numbers are just astronomical. And at what point are we bringing the people that have come through that are going to do some major damage to this country? Frankly, because our government has failed us.
Jim,
at what point?
Here's the procedural part of what happened. I had to research this. I'm not acting like I know all this stuff. I had to look it up like you would too. It says 8 Republicans, that includes Ken, joined with 201 Democrats to vote in favor of referring the articles back to the House Homeland Security Committee, which is carrying out its own investigation into Mayorkas' alleged dereliction of duty. That is from Reuters. That's an article from an article in Reuters. That to me doesn't say I'm voting against impeachment. That to me says, and I realize his statement is, I don't think we ought to go down this road while we're facing a looming government shutdown, which I think takes place at midnight this Friday. But instead is saying, look, we need more. If we're going to do it, it has to be more than just mere incompetence, even gross incompetence. And I think Ken is saying that in that Twitter thing is, yeah, dude sucks at his job, but sucks at your job is not grounds for impeachment. What do you think about that?
I disagree. You know, if he's not protecting, if his job, part of his job description is to protect our border, and he's not doing it. Matter of fact, he's facilitating the exact opposite.
If we do that, Jim, do you worry that, let's say at some point, and it's going to happen, the Dems take back over the House, right? And there's a Republican president, President Trump Part 2. They have a policy dispute with whoever the secretary of fill in the blank is. Doesn't this then just give them further permission to say, well, you know what? We think you suck at your job, and so we're going to impeach you. Doesn't this take impeachment to another level? And my God, buddy, we've already done it with the Trump stuff. Don't get me started. I'm not supportive of those impeachments either. But we've already sort of gone down the road of making impeachment, instead of this solemn exercise of a constitutional obligation on behalf of Congress, we've turned it into this political tool to just go after our opponents. Doesn't this further that?
To a certain aspect, it does. But we're dealing with a crisis here that this country has never experienced. And at what point do American citizens, I mean, listen, George, what if, I've seen this, what if American citizens said, I've had it, and started showing up at the border with guns? What do you think would happen with our government? Do you think they would support it, or do you think they would treat them as people that need to be arrested? I think our government has more concern with our citizens than it does with people who they know nothing about crossing the border. That's how much our government.
I don't disagree that this administration has a failed policy towards the border. I think it's undeniable that they have a failed policy towards the border.
George,
but your question is,
hold
on, when the government fails to enforce the law, does it then fall to us as individuals to do that? And the minute you answer yes, you have opened the door to anarchy, because now you get to point to anything you think is a violation of the law and say, well, the government's not doing anything about it, I should. We just can't go down that road, man.
Well, I agree that is the ultimate situation. But when the government fails to protect us, what are we supposed to do?
We protect ourselves, yes, but you're talking about something a little more proactive, going down and taking up arms on the border. And then what happens? You see people crossing the Rio Grande. Do you shoot them?
No, of course not. But
what would you do?
To defer them. The fact of the matter is,
but you deter them based on the threat of lethality, right? You're not deterring them because, look, I have a gun and you'll see it up close if you get closer. You're saying, don't come here or I'm going to shoot you, right? So it's the threat of lethal force that you're giving.
Yeah, I mean, from the point of view, you're a symbol of protecting the sovereignty of this country. I mean, isn't the federal government, one of its functions are to protect us?
100%, especially when it comes to border integrity. You are absolutely right. You're absolutely right. That's true.
We are having an invasion right now. I mean, this is an invasion, yet our government, instead of stopping it, is facilitating it.
Yeah.
At what point is our government not supporting us, but going against the American citizen?
I don't agree with what the government's doing. I think it is an abject failure what they're doing at the border. I long for the days when we had the stay out of here until we give you full permission to be in here because we vetted you and all that stuff. That's the only right, smart way to do this. And the fact that we've abandoned that because it was Trump's policy and everything Trump was bad is, I think, foolish. I think it's juvenile and I think it's put us at risk. However, the answer to that cannot be, now we're just going to answer it ourselves. We're going to take up arms and do this ourselves. If we do that, man, I just don't know where it ends. Once you give yourself permission to enforce the law as a private citizen in the way that you think is appropriate, even if it's a group of you, buddy, what's the point in having laws? We can just anarchy now. We can't do that. That's why we give government a monopoly on enforcing criminal laws. We do that because government can be accountable to us. You're not accountable to me.
George, we have anarchy at our border. How many citizens do you think it's okay that are dying as a result of fentanyl or illegal immigrants running them over? How many is it okay for you before you say
it's not a question of when it's okay for me, man. It's like you want to say we're in such dire consequences that we need to abandon the Constitution, abandon our sense of the rule of law, and now it's just every man for himself. I'm not there. That can't be the answer for us as Americans. The answer for us is stop sending these clowns to the Capitol, both in Denver and in DC. And as long as America continues to vote to put these people in place, we're getting exactly what we want. Exactly. And I disagree with it, just like you do. But that's it. Hey, man, forgive me. Hey, Jim, I'm sorry. Billy just got in my ear and said, once again, you've babbled so long, he's going to just cut you and I off, and I don't want to do that. Jim, thanks for the phone call. I think it got a lot of conversations going. We have full lines except for Jim's now that's open at 303-696-1971. Quick word about our good buddy, Mitch Floria. We're talking about immigration. Perfect segue into Mitch. Mitch immigrated to America legally back in the day. He grew up under communist-controlled Romania, Ceausescu, if that name rings a bell for you historians out there. Came over here to America, started a family and a business, and has taken both to the very top levels. This is an old school kind of an American businessman. This is the guy that says, come into my shop, and if you do, I'm going to close the deal with you. I'll put my hand in your hand, I'll look you in the eye, and I'll make certain promises that I have lived up to every single time that I've made them. And you don't have to believe me. I'm telling you, the word of mouth thing is huge for Mitch Floria. But don't wait for someone else to tell you about it. If you're doing the countertops in your kitchen, your bathroom, a finished basement, this is the only call you need to make on his phone, 303-386-5919, not some call center outside the country. This is the call center in his pocket. Now, I'm going to come up with a better way to describe it, but you know what I mean. It's his cell phone, 303-386-5919, or you check him out at theartofgranite.com. That's theartofgranite.com. When we come back, Bomba, Steve, we'll keep the conversation going as long as you're willing to have it. 303-696-1971. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS, going right back to the phone lines. There's one open, 303-696-1971. Bamba, you're on. What are your thoughts, man?
George.
Good morning.
Good morning, and thank you for taking my call.
I asked for your call. Are you kidding? Thank you for doing it.
Yes, sir. That was a challenge. Yep. And I have
Well,
to
it was
take
an
up.
opportunity. It's not really a challenge. It was an opportunity.
But, George, this is not a fight of religion. It's not Muslim against Jews or Christian against Muslim. No. This is the battle of the truth against the lies. Right from wrong. Evil and good. That's what it is.
Well, so far
And
we're in agreement.
anybody-
So far we're in agreement on that part.
And
And buddy,
anybody-
do me a favor. Turn down that radio because when I hear me, I freak out.
And anybody telling you otherwise is just spreading lies.
Yeah, but who's the
Thank
evil
you.
then, man? Because when you say good against evil, I'm like, I agree. And me, I'm a simple man. I define evil by things like beheading babies. It falls into the evil bucket for me.
George, people keep saying, oh, they kill babies, they rape women. None of that is true.
What?
None of that
Are
is
you
true.
saying that that is all made up? That did not happen?
Propaganda. It's nothing but propaganda. None.
What
None.
did Hamas do then? And buddy, you got to kill that radio in the background. I can still hear me.
Yeah, I cut the radio off.
Okay, man. Maybe it's on speaker or
what-
something. Maybe it's because we're on speaker. If you can just put it into your ear somehow, because I'm hearing a little kickback. Yeah. Tell me then, what did Hamas do? They didn't rape. Did they kidnap?
They did kidnap.
Okay, so they kidnapped. What else do you think they did? What are you willing to admit they did?
They went up in there, killed people, kidnapped people. That is true.
And they killed women.
Killing babies,
They killed
raping women. I'm sorry.
They killed women, unarmed women. True.
Yeah, but I mean,
Okay.
you cannot.
But-
When you do that, you cannot separate who you're gonna kill. No, you just go ahead and do what you do and get out. That's
Hold
what
on.
it is.
So it was a surgical strike against unarmed women and children with kidnapping. But absolutely, they drew the line at raping those same women, and they did not murder
Judge.
babies by cutting their heads off.
Judge.
Yeah.
If you see what happened that other day, and you're still telling me somebody has time to be raping women, it does not make sense at all. It doesn't make sense.
So they're lying, is what you're saying. The Israelis are lying.
It's
That
propaganda.
Hamas just came in. All they wanted to do was to murder a bunch of unsuspecting, unarmed Israelis celebrating at a music festival, and then they were going to go back about their business. That was it. And
That's
by the
what
way,
happened.
kidnap some.
That's
A
what
little
happened.
murder, little kidnapping, but nothing big.
That's what happened. And no, nothing big. That was a killing. That's big. Killing people is too big. Yeah, it's big. Okay, let me come back to my point of view. Anybody telling you otherwise, this is not a battle between good and evil. It's just a lie. It's a propaganda.
Was it good
I
what
think-
Hamas did, or was it evil what Hamas did? And by the way, Bamba, I don't want you to feel like I'm cutting you off. I have 1 minute, so go ahead and say what you're going to say.
This is a fight. This is a fight, and there is no code of conduct. Killing is killing, even though it's wrong. It's a fight. So
Mhm.
either Hamas or the Israeli, they all do the same thing every day. They do it to each other every day.
Mhm. And
So,
it's not
this-
bad.
this
It's
is
not a bad thing. It's not evil.
I
Killing is
think-
killing.
I think the last caller, he said it right. He doesn't even care to take the arm and go to the border to protect the border. This is what the Palestinians are doing, and you guys are supporting Israel for doing it. They
So-
came to your border, take your land.
Yeah,
That's what you guys are
They
supporting.
came into Israel, though, Bamba. They weren't protecting their border. They left their border. That would be like us
No.
going into Mexico and killing people before they got to the border. Is that what you're advocating for?
No. I did not say to do that. No.
Oh, buddy.
I
Hey,
said-
Bamba, would you forgive me, man? Can you hear that music, friend? We are
Yep,
losing
I
you. And
get
the sound is getting bad too. Listen, Bamba, I love the conversation. I wish I could continue it with you now, but I'm about to be cut off no matter what I say. Thank you for calling in. I want to keep this conversation going. Steve, others calling in at 303-696-1971. Stick around. We'll be back. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here for the final hour of the George Show at 710 KNUS. Good weather out there today. Make sure you get outside if you can, 70 degrees. Hey, we have been talking about two different things. Really, we'd started with a great call with Joshus Sharf, who's on the ground out there in Washington, D.C., getting ready to participate in a pro-Israel march. As a reminder, I think, to those at the Capitol about what the right side of this fight is going on over there in the Middle East. I'm thrilled Bomba called in. I wish I could have talked to him more. We just didn't have enough time. 5 minutes just wasn't enough to do it justice, but that's longer than most of our calls. But he's right. Bomba's right. It is a fight between good and evil. We just disagree, one, about what the facts are, and two, about who evil is. This idea that Hamas just slipped in, killed some unarmed women and children and men, kidnapped a few of them, but drew the line at rape and beheading babies, that is just simply made up. And then they got out. That, man, and some texters have chimed in on that as well. It doesn't make it better. It's not, I don't know how to describe it. It's just, I need to hear Bomba say Hamas has no place on the planet. Hamas should be wiped out. You be as pro-Palestinian as you want. Hamas gotta go. That's what we need to hear. Hamas must not exist anymore. I think that has to be the goal of any civilized people based on who they are, what they stand for, and what they've done. That's the only thing that makes any sense. But we also have some callers calling in too. They've called in on the Ken Buck vote that I went through, and I cannot remember if it was Jim. I think it might have been Jim that we talked about it with, that was about Mayorkas being impeached. And so we've had a bunch of different conversations going on in those ranges. There's some other things I want to get to, but as always, we're a caller-driven show. That's the only way I would be willing to do this. If they said, George, you just simply have to vomit stuff up for 4 hours, I'd only do it for doubling the pay. But it would be very difficult, but I would do it for doubling the pay. Otherwise, I want to do this right now. Go to Steve. You've been very patient. Steve from Denver, you're on 710 KNUS. Steve, what do you think?
Good morning, George. I wanted to basically just compliment the segment on Friday with Rich Sokol.
Oh, yeah. Great dude.
Extraordinary. And I think he frames the predicate well, in addition to his courage. But the predicate gets missed, and that's this, that the purpose of Hamas is to destroy the Jewish people.
That's right.
That's in their quasi-constitution, their both a religious and a government document, if you want to state that. There's no other reason. And the discussion about the historical differences and how we got here and all of that, that's not it. This is a group whose purpose is to destroy the Jewish people. And Rich, I don't know Rich, but Rich also said, and to destroy those who support the Jewish people. And it was just, and I shared that with several people over the weekend, including some Jewish friends of mine. And I just think it was just a really heartfelt, clear, concise, and I love what he said about President Biden over there. So those are my thoughts. And obviously I couldn't disagree with your prior caller more. It is good and evil, and Hamas is evil and the Jewish people are good.
I think that this is what it's come down to. And it's not to suggest that Israel has never done anything wrong. I'm not here to simply say that they're blameless. And I don't know any Jews that say that either. But in this conflict between Hamas and Israel, it's a no-brainer. It's absolutely zero. What I appreciate, though, is Bomba being willing to say, what Hamas did, yes, killing is killing, but they just came in, they killed some unarmed people that were unsuspecting, kidnapped some of them, and then got out. Like, that's okay. But here Israel is going in, providing downtime for Palestinians to get a warning. Please go to the south. We're going to come in and wipe out Hamas. All of these things, and all we hear from folks, and I presume Bomba has said this in his private life, as have others, it's genocide. Israel's committing genocide against Palestine. Utter garbage. There's no definition of genocide that covers the facts of what's going on in Israel. And thank you for calling in. Rich Sokol, super great guy. And Steve, thank you for that call. Rich is a good dude. He and I once got tapped to do, I don't know how you describe it, some sort of a stand-up routine, if you will. It's some kind of a Lincoln Day dinner thing. Dude's wicked funny and wicked smart. Probably too tall. And I think he'd probably admit that too. He'd like to be a few inches shorter because he's uncomfortably tall. But otherwise, a great guy. And man, sure has the guts. When bad things happen in Israel, he just hops on a plane and goes to it. I mean, rushes to the fire. My hat's off to guys like that, man. And women too that have done it as well. I just think that's fantastic. Now, listen, here's a bunch of texts that have come in. I'm going to try to get through some of these things. But before I do, I want to point you to an opportunity that you have. This is a dude-only opportunity, okay? Advanced hair restoration. These are the folks that have gone out there and figured out a way to use your hair to help grow new hair so that you don't go through the rest of life feeling a little uncomfortable and sheepish about your hairline, thinning hair, all of those things that make you look older and feel less confident. You just don't need to go through life like that because there are alternatives. Simple one-day treatment, in and out. The hair is yours. It starts growing immediately. Why not have the phone call for free to see if you're eligible for this treatment? 720-459-HAIR is the number. 720-459-HAIR is the number. You call in, you get $250 off, as well as 250 free hair grafts. And then the rest is just you looking in the mirror saying, why didn't I do this years ago? This has taken years off my life. It's made me stand a little taller. I breathe a little deeper. There's a spring in my step. How do you not want to do that just from this simple phone call? 720-459-HAIR, HAIR, not the rabbit. Or you can check them out at advancedhair.com. That's advancedhair.com. Here are some of the texts. This is going back a little bit. The white nationalist caller sounds like Bob Marshall. Bob Marshall is the first Democrat elected to the House from Douglas County since, I don't know. I'd say since the Civil War. And I bring that up because we weren't a state back then. But there's video. I just saw it for the first time yesterday. There's video out there of Bob Marshall running around Highlands Ranch waving a Confederate flag. And it's off of a body cam, clearly from a law enforcement officer. And they're asking him about a punch he threw at another person. And I'm like, where was this during the campaign? Like, what in the world is going on? This dude's a big time Democrat and he's out there running around with a Confederate flag punching people. And once again, the D's just sort of shrug. Well, he's one of ours. It's okay. I mean, we just got to call out this stuff. But it was a huge flag. Dude, you got to see this thing. This is like a Perkins size flag, if you know what I'm talking about. This thing was enormous. He's got to have some muscular strength up there in the arms because this was a giant flag. And what's funny is he kept waving it during the body cam video.
Wow.
Oh, he kept waving it around. In fact, I want to send you the video. Maybe we can play the sound on here of the cops going, hey, tell me what happened. He's like, that guy that I hit, he slapped me on the back of the head. I mean, just craziness.
What I want is I'm hoping that maybe one of our reporters, our intrepid reporters from Complete Colorado, or maybe even the Gazette would maybe ask Mr. Marshall during the next time, can you please help enumerate
what's going on?
I would look at us. I would ask, can you enumerate what it is you find admirable about the Confederacy? what is it that you aspire to? Please help us understand, because you obviously have a giant flag of the Confederacy. So I want to know what principles they espoused that you like and you think are worthy of celebration and you would like to see us take up. Can you please help me with that one? You know, it doesn't have to be aggressive. You just want to let him have the space to express his love and appreciation.
I just want to hear it.
Me too.
That's a great question. Here's some other folks right here. Please talk about Hamas relation to Palestine. We kind of already done that. I mean, Hamas is that governing political arm, voted in, by the way, many years ago. And once they won, of course, they're not going to have any more elections because they would risk not winning those elections, or they'd have to rig them. They'd have to go all Putin on those things. That's their connection. Here's one. So stupid. Every Christian I know, very strong supporters of Israel. I agree. Historian Paul Johnson's book, History of the Jews, recommended by Charles Krauthammer years ago, outlines systematic hatred. Many reasons, one of which is Jews claim to be the chosen people, or their claim to be the chosen people is what leads to that. That's interesting. History of the Jews. Maybe I'll go check that out. I hope they have it on Audible. Here's one. I'm not religious at all, and I don't understand and never have the hatred of the Jews. Same. Never, ever have I understood that. And frankly, all I needed to know was what happened in World War II. Even as a kid growing up, getting these kinds of history lessons in school, that was enough for me to be like, okay, there's something going on here with people singling out this group for extermination. And that's what's happened. And I just wonder how we justify letting it happen and not calling it out, especially when cancel culture is the favorite tool of the left. And they refuse to use it on their own. I'm telling you what, if Tim Hernandez was a Republican, we'd still be picketing his house. We'd still be out there with torches demanding that he take his own life or some craziness. That's what the left would do. Or the head of ICE. My God, the head of ICE. They marched on his home. The head of ICE for doing his job. They marched on his home. Tim Hernandez, we don't even use his name because we're just hoping that people will forget about it. Well, we're not going to forget about it. We got to call out the anti-Semitism every single time we see it. Here's when there are Jew haters on the left and the right. I think that's true. To say Christians hate because Jews killed Jesus is malarkey. I agree with that too. Jesus was a Jew. 100% right. That's true. I would put the squad girls in the white supremacist group of haters, except that the squad girls aren't white, but I get what you're saying, I think, in terms of ideology. What's that?
I was just saying that while they aren't the same, they could be in the same flavor category.
Maybe that's what they mean. Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of like when you go to,
they're not white
the grocery
supremacists,
store.
but they're in that genre of hatred.
Whole different flavors of vanilla or chocolate or things like that.
Yeah.
But they're different versions of it. And so they could absolutely, I believe they're anti-Semitic. They just have a different version.
So if we were going to have like a Neapolitan anti-Semite treat of some sort, it would include the squad and the white supremacists.
Yes.
I can't remember.
And the irony of the Neapolitan being pink, white, then brown is very, very funny. That is hilarious.
Oh, for God's sake. The other thing is, Billy, you were looking at, and I can't remember what you told me. It was either the Proud Boys or one of these other Gong Show groups that are also anti-Jew.
Yeah, and I forget which one it is, but yeah, it's the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers. One of the two of them
can't remember.
Has some anti-Semitic tropes in some of their founding documents and some of their things. So there are some things there where, they're not openly, but they're not happy. And if they could get the Jews to go away, they'd be super happy with that too. They would be happy if Hamas showed up with a giant boat and said, help us put the Jews on this boat so we can take it out into the bay and sink it. They would line up and help. So,
our friend Joan, this is a response to something a little bit ago. Really? Trump is the reason for the rise of anti-Semitism? How is that the far left is supporting Hamas? And Trump did more for the Jews than any other president ever. I don't know about that part, Joan. He did the whole Jerusalem embassy thing. That part is true. He withdrew us from those Iran nuke accords. That part is true also. I'm not sure, though, that I agree. First off, I don't blame Trump for the rise of anti-Semitism. I mean, come on. But I'm not sure I can give him credit for being the best president towards Jews ever. I mean, it feels a lot like one of the presidents before him sent us to war to end the extermination of the Jews. That feels like that's a pretty big deal. Other presidents supported the creation of Israel. I don't know. I think he's got to be in the top, 55, 56 presidents in that area, but I wouldn't call him number one. As much as Hamas wanted to video their atrocities for all to see, I question why they have not showed videos of the 10 to 20,000 Palestinians they say have been killed by the Israelis. I would think they would want the world to see how vicious the Israelis are. Could it be possible Hamas is exaggerating the death toll? The answer to the second part is yes, they could be. But they do a lot with video. Old video from other things. I think it's pretty clear from the articles I've read that the TikTok and other social media are dominated, and dominate is too strong of a word. They do a better job, they being the Hamas and the Jew-hating Arabs and all that other stuff. And not all Arabs are, I'm just saying the Jew-hating Arabs. They do a much better job with social media than the Jews do. That's what it seems to be based on some of the stuff I've read. I don't know.
There have been a couple of instances where some liars on the side of the Palestinians and Hamas have been exposed. Yeah. You saw one, I think it was last week or the week before. Mark Crowley showed us one of them where you have someone who is in a video from Hamas being injured in an attack or something else. And it depends on where it is. It's either the refugee camp or it's the hospital. And this person is sitting there and they're crying and they're horrible and the injuries are atrocious. And then within the next 24 hours, that same person is featured in a video decrying Israel and the attacks against Palestine and Hamas. And magically they're better. And the timeline doesn't fit because the attack video happened and was released before the I'm okay, protest video. So the timeline is wonky. This person obviously, and the person, when they're talking about it, refers to the attack they were allegedly hit in. That we have a number of those so far that intrepid people online have said, wait a minute, this person that I'm seeing here in this injury video is this same person that I'm seeing over here that is doing this pro-Palestinian TikTok and other videos on social media. So, I can't say for certain, I can't without anything say that Israel hasn't done anything like this. I would think they don't need to. So I'm hesitant to say they would do anything like this, but we do have absolute proof that Hamas and some people in Palestine are doing this. That has been confirmed.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. Listen, a couple more texts that are coming in here. Yes to what Brian, I think this is Brian from Arvada. Yes to what Brian is saying. 100%. That was back when he was on. This was a reference to a statement that I read when we had, I think it was Jim, and if it wasn't, forgive me, talking about Ken Buck's vote on the Mayorkas thing. And I read to you the Twitter thread that Ken had put out this morning while we were on the show. And I read that, and someone said, Ken Buck's statement is a mature and responsible stance. Are we doomed to having Congress tied up with meaningless impeachment hearings on cabinet members? Another, tell that to all the Democrats that have attempted to impeach President Trump. I can't remember. Hold on here. I take exception to this caller's comments. I'm a Trump supporter and not a white supremacist. We need a president that has the intelligence of President Trump. That's our friend Norma. It's hard to know how to answer that one. Here's another, oh my God, what world does that guy live in? I think this is in response to Bomba. He makes my blood boil. There's another one. Here's our buddy Alexa. You know that Buck and the rhinos in actions remind me of when you are sitting in a nice restaurant and the children at the next table are misbehaving and bothering other tables. For the next hour, their parents threaten to punish the kids if they don't behave. The family with poorly behaved children eats. All the surrounding tables are miserable. Then that family leaves. Just threats and no action. Here's some other Mayorkas stuff. Forgive me. I know I'm a little late on this comment, but where is Tony going with this? Most Republicans being white supremacists. The problem today is the media comes up with a narrative and tries to pound it into our skulls, and people like Tony just buy into every bit of what they say. Tony may agree with them. I don't think it's because of the media. I don't know what it is, but it's clear that some try to draw a connection between any Trump supporter or conservatives in general and white supremacists, and it's completely misguided. Just like I don't think that every single member of the left is a Jew-hating Hamas lover, but when they show up, we got to call them out. And that means we got to call out the white supremacists when they do show up on our side of the fence. Since libs love changing the names of things, why don't they ban Mount Democrat, since the Democrats were the party of slavery? Oh, Jesus, that's pretty funny. I think that's funny. Good question. Another text, diversity, equity, and inclusion via Disney, Bud Light, TikTok, Facebook, Google, Hollywood, mass media, propaganda, appointed, not elected politicians like SOS Griswold and Biden, Blinken, Mayorkas. Whoa. Griswold was elected, no doubt about it. Blinken, not elected. Mayorkas, not elected. They're appointed. I get it. But Griswold was elected. I don't think there's anyone that has said otherwise, including her opponents both times, Wayne Williams and Pam Anderson. I don't think they've, and by the way, they're people that have run elections. They admit that Griswold got elected instead of they did. That's an interesting one. All these are weapons of this enemy, WTO, FBI, CIA, UN, blah, blah, blah. All are organized forces against we the people of the USA. Interesting that most of those groups there, including the FBI and CIA, they're made up of people from the USA. They're made up of Americans who are governed by the same laws we are. It doesn't mean there can't be abuses, but I just don't get how casually we announce an entire law enforcement agency is the enemy, like the FBI. Like a bunch of these dudes and dudettes have prior service backgrounds. They put on the uniform and gone to war for us. They're people that have come here and they want to keep us safe from the bad guys, both internally and externally. And yet for political reasons, we just so casually throw them out as the FBI is the enemy of we the people. Really? Do you really believe that? Do you know anybody in the FBI? Have you ever sat down and had coffee with them and just, hey, it's my neighbor, or it's somebody a block away? I mean, something like that. It's interesting that we can get there. Sacraments of this world religion that cannot be compromised by either side are open borders. Here's another one. So hatred is okay if it's approved by the left, trying to figure out who I can hate and who I can't. Another text. Jesus stated he would be handed over to the Gentiles and be crucified. Okay. I think this must be a response to the whole, were the Jews involved somehow in the death of Jesus? And I don't know, man. I'm going to go back and I'm going to watch that movie Barabbas, I think with Anthony Quinn. There's probably some answers in there as well. Hey, listen, got to do something quick and then we'll come back. And I still want to talk to you about the Denver Post and this McClain thing. It's been eating at me since I read this thing. Eating at me is too strong. It's just interesting. QC Kinetics. These are our friends that do the easy stuff when it comes to solving pain. And that is, they don't ask you to swallow a bunch of pills forever. They don't ask you to just grin and bear it. And they don't ask you to go under the knife. What they say is, we're not them. You have plenty of options for that out there. Why not instead use regenerative medicine? That is cutting edge medical technology. And to back it up, they have the medical professionals on the phone to take your call. Ask them any question you want. And my guess is they know the answer, but if they don't, they'll go get it for you. 303-900-8986, 303-900-8986. Whether it's your ankles, knees, hips, other joints, these are folks that use you to help cure you. It's outpatient stuff. You go in, there's some needlework, you go out, and there's no downtime. There's no rehabilitation. There's no long-lasting pain. There's no time off your feet. This is an option you want to have available to you. Even if you end up deciding, no, I much prefer surgery, which I've never heard anybody say out loud, but maybe you're that person. Even if you end up choosing that, give yourself an option. Give yourself a choice, and a good one. Those are our friends at QC Kinetics. Check them out at qckinetics.com, qckinetics.com, or call 303-900-8986, 303-900-8986. When we come back, your texts, your calls, and my little rant here about the Denver Post. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. Little TP in the HBs right here on 710 KNUS. George Brauchler with you here as we hit the back half of the last hour of the show. It's been great so far. I want to shift gears a little bit here. We've had some more texts coming in. I'll get to those, but I want to tell you about something. We talk a lot about the McClain case here because I think it's a microcosm of a couple different things. One, the criminal justice system that we do not scrutinize enough, both good and bad. I don't think it's flawless, but I still think it's the best system out there on the planet. But we got to figure out a way to continue to try to improve it. We also have to hold accountable elected officials, and Big Phil Weiser is one of them. And I have been an opponent of the way he has handled the McClain case from the very first moments it was given to him by Governor Polis after 4.5 million people on a change.org petition forced the governor's hand. As you know, change.org is the most powerful influencer for this current governor who has his eyes set on something out there in the east near the swamp. So Phil handles the case. I've done all this other stuff. We're now 3 defendants in 2 trials, and we have yet to see a jury agree with a single one of the lead charges that Phil has leveled against the 3 officers. Now, there's still 2 paramedics left, and that case is coming up. We'll cover that one as well. But we have one officer, Rodema, who was convicted of the lesser charges of criminally negligent homicide and 3rd-degree assault. And while those are not nothing, those are the smallest possible charges at which accountability could be affixed for what was alleged to have taken place out there on the street in Aurora when innocent Elijah McClain had his life taken from him. Now, I have said, and I'll continue to say every time we talk about this, I am certain that but for the contact with law enforcement that night, Elijah McClain is alive today. I mean, yeah, could there have been lightning or a car thing? Yeah, of course. But for that, I'm telling you, the kid's still alive. And I say kid, 20-something years old. Still alive. But that does not equate to criminal conduct. We've had a civil case. I think it was $15 million that Aurora settled for. $15 million. These guys, some of them lost their jobs. Some of them have been suspended. Rodema has now been fired. He's been convicted of a felony. I think Rosenblatt, who was fully acquitted of everything alleged against him. And Phil tried to put that guy in prison, by the way. He charged a mandatory prison charge. Didn't need to. Could have just charged him with causing the death, but didn't. That guy lost his job because he showed up in that photo. Do you remember that disgusting photo where they're joking about the chokehold and all that stuff? Just horrible stuff. That guy got fired. Now we have Nathan Woodyard, who everybody on the prosecution side made out to be the boogeyman. This is the guy that first went hands-on with McClain. He put the failed carotid hold on him. That dude got fully acquitted. And I don't know what happens with an internal affairs thing, but that guy, I think, may be entitled to go back to his job and get all the back pay in the world. So I wrote a column that posted in the Denver Gazette this Sunday. And you can go check that thing out. In fact, just Google Gazette and Brauchler. It'll bring you there. And I am very fact-based and strategic and tactical, both the big and the small, on how this case was handled and the mistakes that were made and the reason that this was from the outset a political prosecution and no prosecutor would have made the decisions that were made by the AG's office. That's what I'm saying. And now, by the way, we have 2 more guys being prosecuted. These are the dudes. They've got to get convictions on these guys, right? If they get acquittals on these 2 paramedics, OMG. And you know what we're prosecuting the paramedics for? Medical malpractice. 250,000 Americans die every single year, at least that number. That's pretty conservative. 250,000 Americans die every year from medical mistakes. How many of those people do we prosecute for felonies and try to send to prison? I don't know of any. When's the last time you heard of doctors being prosecuted for malpractice? But the paramedics, those guys, and there's no doubt they made a mistake that led to the death of Elijah McClain. I don't have any doubts about that myself. They put ketamine in him at a super therapeutic level without doing the things they should have done. Absolutely they did. But we don't criminalize that anywhere else. I mean, I want to know, when's the last time the AG's office prosecuted a doctor for killing someone? But this is political. This isn't about justice. And that's how I end this column. This looks a lot less like a search for the truth than it is a search for convictions. That's what's going on here. And by the way, both these paramedics, oh yeah, could they be successfully prosecuted? Sure they could. What's interesting, and we mentioned this a little bit, what's interesting is the AG's office just spent the first two trials, 3 defendants saying, no, well, I mean, look, the paramedics made their decisions based on the fact that the cops failed to tell them the truth. They failed to give them all the information, providing them cover and trying to distance the paramedics from the causation for death. And now they're going to pirouette around and say, but wait, the paramedics actually should have done an assessment and they shouldn't have stuck the needles in Elijah with that ketamine. They're going to adopt the defense from the police to get the paramedics. Tell me how that's a search for justice. Tell me how that's a search for truth. So I write this column and I'm pissed because this is just going to further cheapen the view of the criminal justice system in my mind. There's a reason why the Democrat DA that had the case refused to file charges, and it wasn't political. There's a reason no other Democrat DA, and more than half of them are in the state of Colorado, refused to provide personnel to the AG's office to handle this case. There's a reason. And that's because nobody wants to take a case that is politically motivated as a basis for prosecution. That's my opinion. So enter the Denver Post. My piece hits on Sunday in the Gazette, and lo and behold, the editorial board, which is really just Megan Schrader out at the Denver Post, writes this thing: was taking McClain's killers to trial the right thing to do? You will be shocked to hear their conclusion. One of the things that they say early on, and you just have to build to this thing, it says, after the first prosecutor on the case refused to take the homicide to trial, Coloradans now know another truth. This is what the Denver Post says, and then you'll be shocked at the conclusion that they have. There was not enough evidence to convince a jury that 2 of those officers' actions were criminal. Duh. That existed back when Dave Young said, I'm not pursuing these charges. That's not a revelation. That was a fact before the trial. So this is the question they ask. Was the outcome really worth the time, effort, and expense put forth by Colorado's Attorney General Phil Weiser, who impaneled a grand jury to consider the evidence and issued the indictments? We respond with a resolute yes. What? Yes? Here's why. This is clearly someone who is writing this from the standpoint that the courts exist for political purposes, not for justice purposes, not for ethical purposes. Listen to this. America's justice system demands that when prosecutors have clear and convincing evidence, by the way, not a standard in criminal law. That's right. That's civil law. Demand that when prosecutors have clear and convincing evidence, in this case, video and audio of the assault on Elijah McClain, charges be brought. That is not what the American justice system demands, especially when there isn't clear and convincing evidence of what happens. A prosecutor's obligation, first and foremost, are 2 big prongs. 1, am I accusing the right person of the right crime? That's number 1. If you don't have that, you don't go to court. Or if you're in court, you get the hell out. The second prong is, even if I have these 2 things, I know it's the right person for the right crime, do I have a reasonable likelihood of success at trial? Not guaranteed, but let's just see what happens. Reasonable likelihood of success at trial. If you can't answer yes, it is unethical to move forward in court. Because if you had a different standard, prosecutors would be able to drag people into court all day long on pretty sure you did it. Pretty sure. But wait, the Denver Post goes on. Whether those charges end in a plea deal, trial, conviction, or exoneration depends on how jurors view the evidence when taken as a whole, as if to suggest that jurors are just there to basically entertain these, whatever our notions are of guilt. That's all the jury's there for us to just show up and say, here's what we think. Petit juries, those are the ones that determine accountability in terms of guilt or not guilt. That's different than a grand jury. We impanel grand juries for a very limited but super powerful purpose, and that is to be gatekeepers for what charges can be brought, not what charges will be prosecuted, what can be brought. And we do that based on the low standard of probable cause. Probable cause is it. So this grand jury, did they think they had probable cause based off of the evidence that Phil allowed them to see, including 2 experts he went out and handpicked to give differing opinions than the actual medical examiner that conducted the autopsy? You betcha. Did they have probable cause? Sure, I'll go there. So what? You now need to have a reasonable likelihood of success at trial. This is what weak prosecutors do. They hide behind the grand jury. They use the grand jury to say, well, they said it, not me. I just did their bidding. And that's what Phil said in his statement. We took the case to trial because we wanted to honor the grand jurors' charges and their indictments. What a bunch of nonsense. That is ignorant of how the law works. You don't honor the grand jury's charges. You have independent prosecutorial discretion, and you exercised it when you dismissed some of the charges that the grand jury indicted on. Remember the crime of violence charges, Phil? How did you get rid of those? Why didn't you honor the grand jury's charges there? See, the fact is that this has always been about politics. This has been about an abuse of the criminal justice system, using it to try to, we think somebody did something wrong, so therefore they should have to stand for trial. That's a disgusting use of the criminal justice system. Here's some other stuff. This is something else the Denver Post says. Even in terrible accidents, our justice system demands we hold people accountable for reckless behavior. Nope. Not when you don't have a reasonable likelihood of success at trial. The courtroom is not a place. The trial itself is not the punishment for the crime. The trial itself is not holding somebody accountable. It's the outcome of that case. Listen to this, because Harvey Steinberg came out and said, I'm saddened, quite honestly, that Mr. Rodema was convicted, but ultimately I always felt that his client, Rosenblatt, should never have been charged. This is the Denver Post response. Steinberg, as a criminal defense attorney, should know taking a difficult case to trial is not only appropriate, it is what the legal profession demands of prosecutors who ethically and fairly build a case around the evidence. I want to have Stefan's BS button. What a bunch of garbage. That is not what the criminal justice system demands. This is ignorant of how the system works. This is an abuse of the system. This isn't about taking difficult cases to trial. We simply don't point our fingers at people and say, we think you did wrong. You have to go roll the dice in front of a jury. Nope. That is not ever how the American justice system should work. But this is what the Denver Post applauds out of Phil. Just ridiculous. And this is how they characterize the acquittals. Weiser rectified a grave injustice by bringing the people responsible for McClain's death before a jury. That's how you rectify an injustice? You tell the victim's mother, hey, we're going to go hold these guys accountable in court, even though we have a weak-ass case. And when the jury comes back and acquits, we go, well, I want to get credit for the courage for having done it, but all I did was do what the grand jury told me to do. You know who's a big loser here in this? Not just the American people, not just the Colorado taxpayers, what I mean, and not just how about Miss McClain? How about Miss McClain being drugged through 2 trials now to hear juries that the prosecutors helped pick say, there's no violation here based on what you've brought us? My God, Rodema and Rosenblatt didn't even put on a case. After 10, 11 days of trial, they just shrugged and said, we've got nothing. And the jury came back and acquitted one and convicted the other of the lowest possible charges. Tell me how that's rectifying a grave injustice. And the grave injustice turned out to be not bringing charges, which would have resulted in exactly what we have now. So it sounds like what the Post is saying, justice is served by forcing people to stand before a jury. No, that's not the criminal justice system in Colorado or anywhere in America, and it should never be. That's the problem with making the criminal justice system political. You're not looking for justice. You're looking for revenge or convictions. Oh, well, I don't really feel passionately about it. I just little bummed. Let me tell you about a guy who would never do something this ridiculous if they had the authority. That's Dan Caplis. Dan Caplis is the other guy. Dan Caplis is the guy that's trying to right the wrongs by the big guy. Somebody hurts you or someone you love, causes them a lifetime of pain, lower quality of life. My God, even death. When I worked for Dan, we handled cases where people killed other human beings because of their negligence and recklessness behind the wheel. You better believe Dan was there to hold them accountable. But we didn't just take things to trial to shrug and go, let's see what happens. If we went to trial, we went because we had the goods, and we won, and we won, and we won. Because you don't take weak nothingness to trial. You just don't do it. And that's the civil justice system. You want a winner. You want someone that fights ethically and knows how to win and has done it for decades. That's Dan Caplis. His partner, he and his partner, Babar Wahid, have been killing it on behalf of the worthy and those with righteous cases for years. Give them a call at 303-770-5551, 303-770-5551, or check them out at Dan Caplis, C-A-P-L-I-S, dancaplislaw.com. When we come back, a bunch of texts have rolled into here too. I'm sorry, folks. I was just kind of ranting there. I'll get to some of those, and we'll wrap up the show. It's George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here at 710 KNUS. Not a lot of time left, and I apologize for that. But that last one, I don't know, man. I'm super protective of the system, not because it's perfect, but because we ought to be striving towards improvement all the time. And this just takes us a bunch of steps back. And it's not a defense of the cops. That's not it at all. I've already said my piece on that. This is just a defense of how you use prosecutorial authority. And this is just a politicization of it. And the fact that the Denver Post would weigh in and cheer them on, it is a complete misunderstanding of what the hell goes on in court and what the purpose of court is. Anyway, listen, I got time to tell you about our friends Joyce and Brent Tolliver. They're the mom and son dynamic duo that have put together the Roll 'em Out shelves. I got to have them out to my house. I suggest you do the same thing. I've got some new cabinetry going into some bathrooms, and I want to maximize the efficiency of it and the use of it. That's what these folks do, and they do it with all 5-star ratings. You just can't do better than 5-star. If there was a 6-star, they'd probably have that too. Here's some of the quotes: solid, well-made products, skilled installation, life-changing, outstanding quality, and awesome customer service. They listen to our needs. I can't read the whole thing because otherwise it would be a 20-minute testimonial. Look, call them. When you do, first 4 rollouts installed at no charge when you have them out to do your estimate at the home. That's an $80 value. You'll see firsthand what they can do for you. Check them out. RollEmOutShelves.com. M is E-M. RollEmOutShelves.com. You can also give them a call, 303-475-9601. 303-475-9601. Folks, that does it for us. I can't even get to all the texts, and there have been a ton of them. I'll read them offline. If I can respond, I will. Otherwise, let's start this up again tomorrow. My thanks to Josh Sharf and all of you for making the show so dang successful. We'll keep this thing going. God knows what's going to happen between now and tomorrow. Stick around. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.
Say goodbye to clutter and hello to convenience when you experience organization transformation in your home. Roll 'em Out Shelves, your clutter transformation experts, create affordable Colorado-crafted organized storage solutions. These custom options will maximize and organize your kitchen and bath storage as Roll 'em Out Shelves carefully designs and builds roll-out drawers to fit your space perfectly. To clear the clutter, contact owners Joyce and Brent at Roll 'em Out Shelves to schedule your free in-home estimate today. Say goodbye to clutter and hello to convenience when you experience organization transformation in your home. Roll 'em Out Shelves, your clutter transformation experts, create affordable Colorado-crafted organized storage solutions. These custom options will maximize and organize your kitchen and bath storage as Roll 'em Out Shelves carefully designs and builds roll-out drawers to fit your space perfectly. To clear the clutter, contact owners Joyce and Brent at Roll 'em Out Shelves to schedule your free in-home estimate today.